The Holy Grail was safely returned to its homeland. The main character realizes that she had to steal the Holy Grail for Louis, but the young lady does not understand why everything turned out this way. One of the servants reports that a spy has infiltrated the Link Empire and dared to encroach on their most sacred treasure. Therefore, now the princess of the kingdom of Darkuri, Marie de Darkuri, is sentenced to death by burning for her crime. When the main character turns around, she sees Louis there too. The blonde man turns to him and thanks him for the fact that Prince Louis arrived from the kingdom of Rutonia itself. The young man claims that he could not even think that his ex-fiancée would commit such a serious sin. So Louis takes up the torch and claims that as her ex-fiancée, he will take it upon himself to get rid of her personally. Maria turns to the prince and thinks that although the guy wants to finish her off, his sympathy turns out to be very high. The main character looks at this counter, and the prince claims that he knows about Marie's gift, because the girl is able to see the affection of another person towards herself. And this is a very convenient ability for a spy like her, because the young lady wanted to steal the Holy Grail in order to end the war from which her native land is suffering. Maria just asks what the young man is doing there, and the guy says that everything went exactly according to plan. After all, he provided it to the kingdom, and in return he will receive the Grail. The young man claims that they simply caught Maria in a trap from which the girl could not get out. The young lady asks if their relationship was a lie from the very beginning and if the guy never loved her, but the prince denies it and says that he loves the girl. The lady with silver hair is a little surprised, and the guy with a crazy smile claims that Maria was very useful to him, so how can he not love her? When the main character looks at the counter, she sees a very large number there, and the young man throws a burning torch. He says that he loves the girl, so he is the one who will cleanse her of her sins. The guy also claims that it must be lonely for the young lady to die like this, but she doesn't have to worry because her whole family is already waiting for the girl on the other side. The young man throws parts of their hair onto the floor, and the main character remembers her family and claims that Louis didn't even feel sorry for her brother Alan. The brunette only claims with a smile that his little brother cried and begged to be spared. The guy asks what else can be expected from an 11-year-old boy. The young lady finds it harder and harder to breathe, and the prince says that he killed not only her family, but also all the maids who admired the young lady, the knights who swore allegiance to her, and also the guy got rid of his beloved nanny Maria. She screamed and fought until the end, saying that the girl was not to blame. And the woman's blind faith turned into ruin for her, because she was fed alive to a hungry lion. Maria remembers her nanny, who smiled at her so warmly, and at that time the prince approaches her from behind, and he claims that he gathered everyone whom the young lady loved and then helped them go to heaven. The young man says that he loves Marie so much. The main character can no longer hold back her tears, and Louis continues and claims that the Darkuri dynasty and the country of the young lady have come to an end. But the girl need not be sad because the guy will take care of her lands after the young lady leaves. The brunette also points to the counter above his head and claims that even though he says these terrible things, the girl sees that he still loves her. The main character thinks that the guy took away her family and everything that was dear to her. She curses the prince and prays to God if he exists to hear her. The girl folds her hands and claims that she does not want to die. She doesn't want innocent people to suffer because of her, so the girl thinks what if she had one more chance to save everyone. But suddenly, her thoughts are interrupted when she looks at the Grail, which began to glow. A short time later, the young lady tries to open her eyes, but at first, everything in front of them is blurry. But a little time later, the young lady already sees her nanny, who asks if the lady is okay. The woman says that my lady moaned so loudly in her sleep, but the main character interrupts her and jumps up from her bed. She asks Ayla if it is. The woman replies that yes, and Maria then asks to be allowed to look at her. The young lady understands that Ayla died, but the girl does not understand how it all happened, because she is definitely not in Darukri now, and this is her room in the palace of the Kingdom of Link. The woman asks the young lady if something is wrong, and the main character only asks her nanny if she has arrived for the festival in the Kingdom of Link. Ayla replies that everything is correct, and the royal family is throwing a celebration on the occasion of the kingdom's 120th birthday. Then the main character asks when the celebration will take place. The nanny is sure everything is fine with my lady, because the celebration will take place tomorrow. The young lady just hugs her nanny and thinks that she woke up on the day she arrived in Link's kingdom. Isla asks what happened to my lady, but Maria, with tears in her eyes, thanks God that her nanny is alive. She vows that she will protect the woman even if it costs her life. The nanny only asks what Milady is saying, because it is her task to protect and take care of Maria. After which the nanny says that Milady must be completely tired from the trip, so she should rest before the celebration, because tomorrow will be an important day, and all 5 princes of the Link Empire will be present at this celebration. After which the nanny leaves, the main character remembered that in order to stop the war, Louis convinced her to come to the celebration, collect information about the 5 princes, and steal the Holy Grail for him, and right now a carrier pigeon from the kingdom of Rutonia should come to her, after which the girl sees a dove with a letter tied on its leg. The addressee wrote that he hoped the young lady entered the kingdom of Link safely. He wrote to the young lady not to let anyone reveal their true intentions, and as soon as they had the Grail, they would hold the wedding they had so dreamed of. The addressee of this letter was Louis. The main character squeezes the paper in her hands, and she understands that this scoundrel fooled her, but even if the young lady returns to her homeland, it will not be easy for her to break off her engagement with Louis. So Maria says she needs a plan, but just then the nanny comes into the room and asks what the lady is talking about. The main character just turns to her and asks if Ayla has come, and also if the woman will help her style her hair. The nanny agrees and gets to work, and Maria realizes that Louis offered her his hand and heart only because of her ability, which is that the girl can see the sympathy of people. With this power, she must win over the 5 principles of the Kingdom of Link and end the war. The lady with silver hair understands that she will play the role of Louis' spy until that very day, until he ends his life with his own hands. As the young lady approaches the door, she claims that thanks to Ayla, she feels much better, so the young lady will go and walk around the palace a little. When the main character goes outside, it seems to her that she has really returned to the past, because the situation in the castle is the same as on that day. The silver-haired lady realizes that she needs to convince Louis that she is still on his side, and at the same time, find an ally among the 5 princes of the Kingdom of Link, and conclude a peace treaty with them on behalf of the representative of the Kingdom of Darkuri. The girl understands that she just has to choose her key goal and get it over with, but suddenly, something distracts her attention, and this turns out to be the first prince of the Link Empire, His Highness Alexander. The main character remembers how exactly this prince caught her. He claimed with disgust on his face that the girl really was a spy. Now he disarms his opponent, after which the knight surrenders. And the blonde man turns towards the main character. The young lady understands that she does not want to get involved with this psycho again, so she turns around and quickly leaves. The blonde just silently looks after her. Maria understands that the Link Empire is the country that dominates the continent. This year, the celebration of the 120th birthday of the empire is celebrated. Ambassadors of all countries are gathered for this celebration only for one purpose, for the sake of marrying at least one of the 5 princes of the powerful Link Empire. The first prince of the Link Empire is Alexander. The guy is the son of the empire and is considered a master of military affairs. Already at a young age, he demonstrated outstanding abilities. The second prince of the Link Empire is Lester. The young man is calm and collected. There are also rumors that he has a crush on beautiful women, but he is too flighty and has broken the hearts of many beauties from all over the continent. The third prince of the Link Empire is Lucas, an eccentric scientist who is obsessed with his research and is said to have made breakthroughs in the study of plants. The fourth prince of the Link Empire is Kai. He is spoken of as the Black Devil of the Empire and the Master of the Ball who has captured the Western lands. Although, despite his terrible title, he has a very kind character. The fifth prince of the Link Empire is Elliot. He is a mysterious young man who has never gone out in public without a mask and is also considered the strongest magician on the continent. The main character understands that they are all handsome and skilled, no matter who you look at. The girl thinks which prince will be the easiest target for her. She used to curse this ability. But now, with her help, the girl wants to change the future of her loved ones. At this time, the king announces that this is the end of their welcoming ceremony, and the young lady understands that she will definitely change her destiny. The main character is determined, and the king at this time tells his dear guest to follow the instructions out loud and not rush to leave the ballroom. A short time later, the young lady returns to her room and reports this. She says that there will be a diplomatic ball in the evening, and she herself thinks that if people have reached 50% sympathy, then they are already favorable to her. The main character's family's sympathy for her exceeds 60%, and to gain trust from the interlocutor, his sympathy must be 40%. Friendly relations start from above 50%, and in order to bring your form to life, one of the principals must have a percentage of sympathy between 50 and 70%. The main character says that she will go, and the nanny wishes her to have a lot of fun at the ball. The lady with silver hair says she will do the attacks, then thanks Ayla. Arriving at the ball, the main character realizes that last time the second prince told her about finding the Holy Grail, His Highness Leicester. He was attracted by the young lady's beauty and politeness, so the guy simply could not keep his mouth shut. But the silver-haired lady understands that choosing him as her target is not the best idea. After all, because of your frivolity, it will be the most difficult to achieve lasting sympathy. But suddenly, the main character hears a young man whispering to one of the ladies to leave the door to her chambers open tonight, and he will definitely come. The main character, hearing this, is a little surprised, but then she comes up with a good plan. After which, the young lady heads towards the exit from the ballroom, while her eyes follow her. The same second prince of the empire. That same evening, the main character goes out onto the balcony. In her hands, she holds the sheet that Lewis wrote. There she wrote that she hoped diplomatic relations would last until her return, and then asked what the situation was in Darkuria. The letter also stated that the girl had not yet found the Holy Grail and was trying to earn the trust of one of the 5 princes. The girl understands that Darkuria has concluded a friendly pact with Rutonia. Well, one wrong move on her part, and Darkuria will be doomed. But suddenly, someone screams from behind what the girl is doing there. It turns out to be His Highness, the first prince. The blonde says that this is the woman who wandered around the palace today, and then asks what she was doing here. The main character understands that she needs to calm down, and she must not let the prince find out about her true intentions. But the young man only presses her to the wall and orders her to answer right away. Maria, blushing a little, says that, to tell the truth, she wanted to meet His Majesty Leicester here and convey her message to him. When the prince picks up the letter, he sees that it is indeed a love letter. Lady Alina claims that it is an ordinary love letter, and then apologizes and asks not to look at it like that. The girl understands that the main message is written in invisible ink, so without light, he will not see anything. But suddenly the second prince comes up to them from behind and asks if they are discussing him. Alex claims that the girl behind him wanted to see Leicester, and the second prince then takes the letter and says that Alex so shamelessly took away from this sweet lady a letter that was intended for him. The main character understands that this love letter was an ordinary distraction, and she never expected to meet the second prince, much less speak to him. The young man with silver hair only apologizes for keeping her waiting, and the blonde asks if Leicester really talked to her. The second prince says that the young lady is so cute that it's impossible not to have your eyes on her. Then Alex says that everything is clear, and his brother is again looking for a toy for the night. And Leicester replies that his relationship does not concern his older brother, so he suggests leaving them alone. The blonde says that the young man should do as he pleases, and then leaves. Maria understands that she managed to escape from the clutches of Alexander, but Leicester's sympathy is now -2. A young man with silver hair asks if this letter was really intended for him. The girl just smiles and says that she is glad to meet His Highness Leicester in person, and everything that is written in the letter is the pure truth. But the young man says that her letter does not indicate his name, and the letter could have been intended for anyone. The main character, with a smile on her face, says that it seems she was so worried that she forgot to sign the letter, and she herself thinks that the guy easily noticed it. The young man, holding the letter in his hands, asks if the girl claims that she fell in love with him at first sight. The young lady replies that everything is correct, and as soon as she saw the guy at the welcome ceremony, she could not look away. And Leicester then asks why the young lady doesn't seal her confession with a kiss. Maria gets a little scared from this and asks what His Highness is talking about. But the guy just grabs her hand and pulls her closer to him and then offers to do it for her. At this time, the first prince approaches the entrance to the building, and while leading one of the cats, he asks if he is the 5th prince. Alex needs anything, and the blonde orders him to closely monitor Leicester and also check on another guest. The guy asks who he should find out about. The prince replies that he needs to find out about the princess of the kingdom of Darkuri, because she intended to meet under the cover of darkness in Leicester's chambers, but his room is on the 3rd floor. The prince found this suspicious and wanted to question the young lady, but Leicester intervened. The first prince says that every year rats sneak into the empire's birthday, that they are eager to steal their national treasure, the Holy Grail, and their task is to stop any suspicious individuals who covet it. The 5th prince says that he understands, and the blonde says that if he finds out anything, he should report to him immediately, after which the young man with red hair disappears. Alex thinks that as far as he knows, Princess Darkuri is in a relationship with the Prince of the Kingdom of Rutonia. Rutonia helps the Kingdom of Darkuria in every possible way in their precarious position, and this woman dares to make connections on the side, giving her benefactor. The young man turns around and says that something is clearly wrong there. At this time, the main character is still with Prince Leicester. The girl understands that the prince is clearly playing with her, and she does not intend to give in to him. The young man, touching the bruise on his face, says that the girl turned out to be more interesting than he thought. The lady with silver hair says that she simply will not tolerate being played with like other girls. The young man asks if she wants special treatment, and then grabs the girl's hand. He presses her against the wall and tells her to answer then what she forgot there and how she intended to include this message for him if she wanted to meet him in his chambers. The main character understands that she managed to read his lips, that he intends to meet someone else tonight, and wanted to create an alibi for herself on this basis. But everything did not go according to plan, so she says that she did not think about running into him there. The prince still holds her hand and says that the young lady still has not answered his question because his room is in another part of the palace. But the lady with silver hair points to one of the windows and says that this is true, because she wanted to visit the prince's chamber and convey a message. But she was afraid that she would not find him there, so she came there. After all, from this balcony there is a view of the window from his bedroom, and if there was hair from the bedroom and the prince, the light came on. That she immediately went to him. The guy says that this sounds like a perfect lie, and then asks what would have happened if he had been in the bedroom not alone, but with a girl. And the main character with a smile on her face says that then she would be very unlucky. But the young man only presses her harder against the wall. And now he offers to talk seriously. He moves closer and closer to her ear. And he claims that he is not a fool, and also understands that the young lady needs something from him, and he is ready to help her in exchange for cooperation. The lady with silver hair asks if he is talking about collaborating with her, and the guy just smiles in response. The next day, the fifth prince approaches Alex with information. The blonde, looking at the documents, asks if the fifth prince is sure that Princess Darkuri, Maria de Darkuri, is engaged to the prince of the kingdom of Rutonia, Louis. The magician says that, yes, and there is no doubt about it, and Alex grins in response to this. He claims that the young lady has a fiancé, and at the same time she makes eyes at Leicester, after which the blonde screams for the girl to be brought there immediately. He understands that depending on her answers, he will decide whether the girl will live or not. A short time later, looking at the mask the fifth prince is wearing, Alex asks if it is a mask of invisibility. The guy climbs out of the picture claiming that everything is correct, and this is one of their national treasures. Their empire thrives by communicating with other countries and sharing technology. Therefore, peace is a top priority for their empire. Alex agrees with the other prince, but he says that not everyone wants peace as much as they do, and his task is to get rid of such people. At the same moment the guy hears someone knocking on the door, he tells the girl to come in, after which, sitting at his chair, he claims that last night the young lady told him that she wanted to convey a love message to Leicester. The lady with silver hair thinks that the prince doesn't trust her so much that he caused a cash conversation, so she says that everything is true. But the young man then points to one of the documents and says that the princess is engaged to the prince of the kingdom of Rutonia, His Highness Louis, after which the blonde asks if he is right. The main character understands that her engagement to Louis was never officially made public, and the prince managed to get such information in such a short time, so now the girl is trying to somehow justify herself. But the guy only claims that, with one foot in marriage, the young lady dared to make eyes at the second prince of the Link Empire. And for such boorish behavior, he is thinking about imposing sanctions against Queen Darkuri. The blonde understands that if this girl is planning to seduce Leicester on the orders of the Prince of Rutonia, then he must stop her attempt here and now. So he grabs the princess by the hand and asks if she has anything to answer. And the main character, looking at him, doesn't even know what to say. But suddenly, Leicester approaches them. He asks how Alex dares to treat his milady so rudely. And then he tells the first prince to let her go now. The girl doesn't understand what the guy is doing there. Alex says that the second prince should not interfere with his work. And Leicester asks what this work is about. After which the blonde claims that this woman is suspected of espionage and she could take advantage of Leicester's feelings. And also exchange information with her fiancé. But the guy with silver hair only laughs in response to this. He says that it is not in vain for his brother to assure him that even though his beloved is engaged to another, this does not interfere with their love. Maria only thinks about what kind of love he is talking about. Alexander asks his brother if he even understands what he is talking about now, but the young man says that their family always does not know how to share among themselves, but he will not tolerate such boorish treatment of his lady. The girl understands that the conversation is somehow going on by itself, and it's better for her not to interfere yet. But Alex says that right now the girl is under interrogation, after which he grabs her hand again. And he says that this time he will not allow his brother to take her away from him. The lady with silver hair in response to this only screams how dare he, and asks His Highness if she is some kind of thing that can simply be taken away, after which she slips out of the young man's grip and leaves with Lester. Alex just yells at her not to go anywhere. But suddenly, a young man with red hair appears behind him and says that his brother should calm down. After all, if he chases them, it will attract unnecessary attention that they do not need. Alex says he understands, and then orders the red-haired youth to continue spying on them. The guy bows to the first prince and then leaves. At this time, the main character is still going with Lester. She understands that she was almost discovered, but the problem now is different because now Lester may be suspected of espionage. A young man with silver hair asks if she is thinking about espionage, because if so, then they should discuss the details of their cooperation as soon as possible. The girl remembers how last night the guy said that one of his brothers could be listening in on them, so he offered to talk in his room. A short time later, they are already at Lester's guest house. The young man claims that no one will bother them there, and after they enter the room, the guy sits Maria on the bed. The girl screams, "What is he doing?" And the second prince says that you should not underestimate his older brother, because he is like a mad dog. Because as soon as he sees weakness, he will grab hold of you and will not let go until the very end. The lady with silver hair says that she hasn't done anything wrong, but in her thoughts, she adds that she hasn't done anything yet. But the young man throws her onto the bed and asks how he should know. But then he claims that he doesn't care whether the girl is a spy or not, and he just needs a smart ally. The silver-haired lady asks what His Highness is up to, and if he doesn't treat her as an equal, then she won't be able to help. Lester claims that he thought women like to be unequal to men, but the young lady quickly puts him on his back and says that she is not like everyone else. The guy is a little surprised by this, and at the same moment the girl thinks that maybe she did it in vain. After all, her sympathy rating is not so high as to contradict him, but the young man only laughs in response to this. He says with a smile on his face that the young lady is truly amazing, and his sympathy changes to 6. The main character asks how she can help His Highness, and the young man claims that there is a test this week, and he wants the young lady to go with him. The main character asks if this is all, and the young man takes her hair in his hands and says that at this ball he wants to introduce her as his bride. The lady with silver hair asks why His Highness needs this. She understands that if in return he concludes a peace pact with Darkuri, then the girl will agree to everything. But she extends her hand and asks His Highness why he needs this, and also asks if he wants to tell her the reason for his desire. The young lady swears on behalf of her family that she will not tell his story to anyone. After this, the young man sits at the table and says that in fact, a long time ago he was already in love, but this girl died because of him. One day, a young man and his friends went hunting. It was a fairly ordinary event. Well, when they were returning to the palace, they were attacked by mercenaries from another kingdom. During the fight, the guy fell off a cliff and lost consciousness, but the prince was much luckier than his friends. The young man begins to take off his cape and then his shirt. The main character asks why he suddenly began to undress during their conversation, and the young man claims that every time he tells this story, no one believes him. Well, there is irrefutable evidence of that attack on his body. Maria thinks that she certainly understands everything, but because of his playful nature, the girl cannot calmly accept such actions. She claims that she will burn the prince and asks him to stop. But then she sees these terrible scars on his back. The guy claims that he could have died on that ill-fated day if it weren't for a girl named Sherry who walked him out. In Sherry's house, there was a small table where her whole family of 8 dined. The main character asks if this counted, including him. The guy replies that it's true, and it was the first time he ate at a table where the whole family gathered. Despite all the inconveniences, this moment was clearly imprinted in his memory. Maria asks if the young man stopped visiting her even after his recovery. The second prince only nods in response to this. He remembers these days. Then the young man said that the girl's house was, as always, very cozy, and Sherry replied that they must be cramped and noisy compared to the royal palace. Lester, you said that he was only happy about this because he was already tired of his arrogant brothers and indifferent father. At this time, one of the guys handed him his drawing and asked Mr. Lester to look. The young man asked if the boy really drew this, and then he turned to Sherry, suggested we go for a walk with Toby and Molly while she prepares dinner. The girl replied that it was so impolite of her to burden the prince with her brothers and sisters. Lester replied that he had fun hanging out with them, so he also wanted to help a little Sherry doing housework. The young man pinched his leg so as not to blush at all, and the girl told him that she agreed to this, but let the children not forget to thank His Highness. Lester asked why it was so official, and the girl answered that they should know their prince by sight and also know his name. Lester then told the young lady that she did not have to address him by his title, but only by his name. Sherry just smiled in response to this and said that the prince was too kind to her. The young man then said that Memorial Day would pass very soon, and his father wants to throw a large-scale celebration in the capital in honor of this. So he asked the young lady if she would like to go to this celebration with him, because he never repaid Sherry for everything she did for him. The blonde, with a sincere smile on his face, said that if His Highness insists, then she cannot refuse. However, on the day they met, when Lester approached her house and saw a terrible picture as the young lady lay lifeless on the floor, His Highness was in complete shock, and Maria is now asking who dared to kill the girl. Lester replies that the only person capable of such atrocity is the niece of the king of the empire, Carla. The main character, looking at the young man, understands that she heard that this girl was nominated more than once for the role of the bride Lester, but the main character does not understand why the girl did this and how she could do this, so she asks His Highness about it. The young man tells how the girl came up to him and said that Memorial Day would pass very soon, so she offered to go to the holiday together. But His Highness apologized and claimed that he had already promised one person to go together to this celebration, so the girl could go with someone else. Carla seemed to have gone crazy from this. She wondered who it could be and what kind of creature dared to spend time with her beloved. The girl vehemently insisted that Lester belongs to her alone, and she will not forgive this creature. Carla decided that she had to teach her a lesson. Now His Highness says that it was ordinary jealousy, and the main character is shocked by this and thinks how someone can end someone's life so calmly because of this. The guy claims that he doesn't know why Carla is obsessed with him, but after that incident, she didn't leave him alone for a day. Maria asks if the king really did not react to her strange behavior. Lester claims that his father didn't care, and Carla left lipstick marks on his clothes, stole his things, and Tets was convinced that in the future, they would definitely get married. The main character thinks how creepy this is, and the guy says that Carla is his father's favorite niece, and he also has an amazing relationship with Carla's father, that is, Uncle Lester. Because of this, no one thinks that he can have a marriage with someone other than Carla. Then the main character asks if the guy needs her to break off his engagement to Lady Carla, and the young man replies that this is true, but it is very risky to do such a thing, knowing her jealous disposition. Every time he proposed this plan to his lovers, they all refused. The girls said that all their empires know that they should cross Lady Carla's path, and the main character now says that she agrees. The young man is a little shocked by this. Yeah, the main character says that she knows how scary it is to be with a person who is literally possessed, so she will help. Maria realizes that this crazy woman has taken away the love of his life from Lester, and she, too, could find herself in a similar situation. The young lady understands that Lester was not playing with women's feelings, but was looking for an ally. Looking at the guy, she sees that the number on the counter has reached 14. Maria. Think about it. His like percentage jumped so high in one go. And the girl wonders if she has really chosen a faithful ally. And Lester at this time asks if she understands that in this marriage, no love will await her, and he just wants to free himself from Carla's shackles, so he asks if that suits the young lady. Maria says that she understands, but she has a condition, because the guy will have to conclude a friendly pact with the Darkuri Empire, because she also has those she wants to protect. The young man agrees, and says that this sounds very fair, so if the ball goes well, he will immediately submit a document on the Commonwealth. The lady with silver hair holds out her hand to him and says it's a deal, after which they shake hands and make a deal. The guy says that after the engagement is announced, Grail will try in every possible way to get rid of Maria. So they need to act very carefully, and the young lady should not leave him even a step. The main character asks if the girl would really do something like this. The second prince is silent for a moment, thoughtful, and then turns to Marie. The girl wonders if he really remembered her name, and the young man picks her up and asks if the girl really decided to agree to marriage, without fear for herself. The lady with silver hair puts her finger to his lips and says that this is a good joke, however. It will be worse for Carla if she tries to encroach on her life. After all, the girl is a princess, albeit of a small country, and if someone dares to harm her, a military conflict will break out, which the Link Empire definitely does not need. Therefore, it would be short-sighted to plunge her into eternal sleep knowing about her origin. The girl thinks that all they need to do is get Carla and herself out, and then they can bring her to justice. So the lady with silver hair turns to His Highness and says that if you think from this point of view, then she has an idea, but for this she will need a new dress and jewelry. The second prince asks if she wants the dress, and the main character thinks that the niece of the king of the Link Empire, Carla, is a beautiful but very hot-tempered lady, and they will be able to get rid of it by pressing on weak points, so Maria discusses a plan with the young man. Lester says that he understands everything, and the ball will be held in a week, so he will have time to prepare everything. Until then, he asks the young lady not to leave the premises of his guest house. Maria asks why, and the young man tells her not to forget that Alex still suspects her, and if she leaves this house, he will try to detain her again. The lady with silver hair says that he is right, because Alexander will not calm down until he brings her to clean water. But Lester tells the girl not to worry because he won't let his brother set foot there. The young man kisses the girl's hand and claims that if Maria wants to take a walk, he will gladly keep her company, after which he leaves. The main character, a short time later, sitting at the table, writes another sheet. In it, she indicates that the matter has moved forward, and in order to fulfill her plans, she agreed to a fake engagement with His Highness Leicester. The girl understands that everything is fine, but she should be honest with Louis until the pact with Darkuri is officially concluded. After all, the guy had found out about the engagement in any case, so unnecessary concealments would have led to unnecessary suspicions. The main character holds the pigeon and gives him a sheet. She puts her finger on his head and claims that the pigeon knows what to do. But suddenly, someone appears not far from the young lady. The main character thinks who it is, and the guy, dispelling his magic, says that the girl has finally come into the world. This turns out to be His Highness Alexander. The lady with silver hair understands that if he saw her sending a letter, it is very bad. Therefore, the girl asks if His Highness would like to talk with her. The first prince claims that he knows about the young lady's engagement to someone else, so that's enough of this performance. The main character understands that the dove is still here, so she also falls on the first prince, and she says that she is very tired. The girl apologizes to His Highness and claims that she has simply been anemic since birth, and she often experiences bouts of fatigue. The girl herself thinks that the dove would fly away sooner, and the guy says that this pigeon has something tied to its paw. Then the young lady realizes that the pigeon is still there, so she'll sue the prince again. And this time, he knocks him to the floor. The young man understands that this girl is distracting him with all her might, and this only confirms his guess that the girl is a spy. So he takes the belt from his cloak and binds the young lady's hands with it. The dove gets scared by this sudden movement and flies away, and the main character thinks that thank God the dove has flown away. His Highness only turns to Elliot and tells him to get them out of there quickly, after which the main character is already in His Highness's office, and the guy claims that now they can talk without his annoying younger brother. The lady with silver hair realizes that she was teleported back to Alexander's office. She claims that she is the princess of the kingdom of Darkuri and asks how the prince dares to keep her in this office by force, and she herself understands that now she cannot avoid a conversation with him. The blonde says that if she is innocent, then he will let her go quickly, so the young lady has nothing to worry about, and the girl understands that if she lets her guard down for even a second and she is accused again, then execution cannot be avoided. Therefore, the girl understands that there must be a way to get out of there, and then an idea comes to her. The young lady asks, maybe His Highness wanted to be alone with her because he has tender feelings for her. The guy definitely didn't expect this, so he immediately blushed. He screams, "Why did the girl get that?" And the lady with the silver hair thinks he lost his temper pretty easily. Therefore, Maria continues this performance and says that for the first time, a young man ties her up against her will and drags her into his office. So this leads to some thoughts. The blonde screams that everything is wrong, and he tied up the young lady because she was in the way. But Maria only says what people will think if they find out that the first prince drags lovely ladies into his office against their will. The girl understands that she will put pressure until he gives up and escorts her out of the office himself. The young man turns to the fifth prince, but he only looks away. The guy shouts to the young lady so that she doesn't misunderstand him. After all, he simply had no other choice. But the main character, when he approaches, understands that this is her chance. Therefore, the girl hits his foot with her foot, causing the prince to stagger and fall on her. And at that very moment, Alexander is already pressing her to the chair. The lady with silver hair says how assertive His Highness is, and he asks if he really wanted to take possession of her so much that he literally stole her, and now he's doing this. The young man immediately pulls away and asks what kind of nonsense this is, and the main character understands that a little more, and he will explode from embarrassment, and he will have no choice but to let her go. Therefore, Maria, with a smile on her face, says that let me call her a suspected spy, because if His Highness just wanted her attention, it was enough just to talk, and after which the lady with silver hair sat him down on a chair. The blonde screams what she's doing. The young lady asks if he didn't want to talk to her alone. The first prince looks at Elliot in shock and sees that he is about to use teleportation magic, so Alexander screams for him not to leave. But the main character only turns his face back to her and asks whether His Highness wants their love to have an audience. But the young man only pushes the girl back and screams for her to leave, and then turns to Elliot and tells him to send the young lady back now. Lollipops with silver hair thinks how the first principle turns out to be simple. The girl asks what happened to her hands, and then the guy unties them, and the main character thinks that the final touch remains. After which she approaches His Highness and says that for him, she will be either a spy or an ordinary princess, but next time, she will offer to just chat without his depraved games. The young man, in shock, asks what she just said, but the girl has already teleported away. The fifth prince says that his brother should not misunderstand him, but if he has such a fetish that he is not going to judge. The blonde screams that this is a misunderstanding, and the girl was just getting in his way. So he had to tie her up, and there was no lecherous connotation to it. But the guy with red hair asks what it means to get in the way. After all, how could a military strategist and the first general of the Link Empire get in the way of some lady? After this, the guy droops, and the fifth prince says that he thinks he should leave his brother alone. The blonde asks why. But when he looks into the mirror that his brother just created, he understands everything, and Elliot says that his brother blushed so much, so he thinks that the prince should cool down a little before they continue their work. The fifth prince thinks that this is the first time he has seen his brother taken by surprise by a woman. After all, the older brother always had a strict and even slightly aggressive disposition, so his relationships with the opposite sex did not work out at all. But there has never been a lady who embarrassed him so much, so Elliot thinks that Lady Darkery is not as simple as he thought. The young man tells his brother that they still missed Princess Darkery, so he asks if he should bring her again. But the first prince says no and offers to watch her. He understands that if he is left alone with her again, various rumors will spread, and that's all he needed. The fifth prince says that he obeys, but he himself understands that his brother is not ready to talk to her yet, and wonders if the girl really impressed him that much. The blonde says that he still has urgent matters, and in his absence, Elliot must continue to watch her. The guy turns to the mirror and thinks that he is interested, because if they are left alone again, whether Princess Darkery will be able to get closer to his brother, well, he can only watch this story from the sidelines. The lady with silver hair teleports to the second prince's guest house. The girl thinks that thank God she managed to get out this time. But Lester immediately turns to her and says that he wanted to discuss something about their plan. But suddenly the guy saw marks on the young lady's wrists and cried out what happened to her. The main character is thinking about whether he should tell him that his older brother treated him so disrespectfully by literally invading his home. Lester asks if the young lady was forbidden to tell him what happened. Maria asks what he is talking about and says that of course not. Then the young man takes her hand with his and says that then she should share it with him, because if she does not tell him, then the prince will not be able to ensure her safety even within the walls of his house. A little time later, the main character realizes that she said that she was kidnapped, but did not specify that it was Alexander. The young man says that he understood, and then today the girl will sleep with him. The main character screams in shock. What is he talking about? She realizes that she expected any reaction, but not this one. Therefore, he asks why they should do this. The guy says that he has a fairly large bed so they can easily fit on it. And the lady with silver hair says that that's not what she's talking about, and she's not going to share a bed with a man. Then the guy turns to Marie and says that most likely his younger brother Eli kidnapped her. After all, he is in cahoots with Alexander and can do it again. The main character thinks that the young man must be talking about His Highness Elliot. After all, he is the strongest magician on the continent and is truly capable of kidnapping anyone without leaving a trace behind. And Lester says that if he is around, he promises that he can protect the young lady, and he is certainly not going to pester the lady without her direct consent. But that same night, the girl understands that at least the young man said something. But in the end, she found herself in this situation. The main character tries wake up His Highness and say that he allows himself too much. But the guy just screams in his sleep and begs someone not to leave. Shoulders with silver hair understands that he is most likely having a nightmare, and the guy says not to leave him. The main character understands that most likely he is still tormented by a feeling of guilt because he could not save his only dear person. The girl thinks that she is really sorry that he had to go through this nightmare all alone, but the young man only asks in a dream where Ben went. Maria does not understand who he is talking about. She thought that His Highness was dreaming of his deceased beloved, but Lester only approaches the young lady and says how delicious he smells. Then he kisses her neck. The silver-haired lady is shocked and immediately pushes him away. She screams that this is enough and tells the guy to wake up quickly. The young man, just waking up, asks Marie what it is, and the girl, pointing to her neck, says that His Highness is too clingy. The guy, realizing what he just did, apologizes and claims that he dreamed of hugging a big dog named Ben. He lived in Sherry's house. The main character realizes that the prince has confused her with a dog. The next day, the young lady is already heading to the ball. One of the maids reports that His Highness Leicester asked the girl to wait there. But suddenly, the main character hears someone's voice asking if she is another litter. It turns out to be Carla. She thinks what kind of simpleton this is, and understands that Lester has always been greedy for such uncouth fools. The girl thinks what kind of terrible dress this is, because it looks as cheap as possible and is completely unsuitable for today's celebration. The lady with silver hair thinks that Carla is easy to remember. The girl approaches the main character and asks what kind of pebble this is. After all, it is so cloudy and more like a coal than a jewel that should be worn around your neck. Maria says that this is a gift from His Highness Leicester, and then asks if the girl has heard of volkite before. Carla understands that this is a rare gem that is obtained from the scales of fossilized monsters, and such stones are not just rare, but only a few have them. The lady with silver hair claims that the peculiarity of this stone is that it changes color when heated. Carla says that she already knew this, and His Highness Leicester is too kind to commoners like her. But the girl claims that she wants to be honest with the young lady, and the prince is just playing with the girl's feelings. After all, he will never take their relationship seriously, no matter what frogs he gives. Carla also says that she is quite famous in social circles and can pick up a young lady with another betrothed whom she just drops by. After all, I can't let her go empty-handed and with a broken heart, because I already feel sorry for the young lady. But suddenly, Lester approaches Maria from behind. He asks why the young lady does this, because she already has him. The girl with pink hair is shocked by this, and the main character wonders what the prince is doing. But then she realizes that he lifted her hair and thinks that she deliberately hid this hickey with her hair. Lester only apologizes for keeping him waiting, and Maria asks what His Highness is doing. The guy kisses her hand and says that he just still can't forget how magical their night was last night. The girl understands that yes, but only in his dreams he kissed a beautiful lady and a dog named Ben, after which they leave. The second prince says that they managed to hurt her, and the main character says that it's all thanks to his beloved dog. The young man only smiles in response to this, and at this time, Carla cannot come to her senses. She touches her fan. At this time, the main character and Mr. Lester are walking along the corridor, but then the young lady notices the first prince. The guy, after remembering what happened, immediately blushes. The lady with silver hair wonders why he is blushing. But the girl herself is all red. She thinks that she had to behave, acting so depravedly in her pride. Lester asks what happened to Alex, and the main character tells His Highness that it's not that important and suggests moving on. The fifth prince thinks what a curious reaction this is. At this time, in the ballroom, Carla was talking with two aristocrats. One of them asks if Milady Carla came alone today. The girl replies that, unfortunately, yes. She thought of spending this evening with His Highness Lester, but he is already with someone else. The young man standing next to the lady with pink hair says that he is thinking about summer. He didn't know about the relationship between Carla and His Highness Lester, but His Highness is so kind and can never refuse a lady's request. Then one of these aristocrats says that if so, he asks Lady Carla to let him ask her to dance. The girl says that she is pleased with the attention of the young man, but her heart belongs only to His Highness Lester. The guy embarrassedly asks how His Highness could exchange the young lady for some stranger after all the feelings that she has for him, after which he insists that the girl forgive him, but he cannot leave it so easily. Carla thinks how cute it is, because such pockets are very easy to manipulate. The guy runs up to the main character from behind and screams whether she has any idea what she's doing. The young man claims that this man has loved ones, and the girl dares to seduce him. But grabbing the young lady's dress, he tears it. The main character is shocked by this, and the young man understands what he just did. Lester turns to him and asks how he dares to treat his companion as if she were some kind of plebeian. Then the lady with pink hair comes up to them and says what a poor Lady Marie. She thinks that she will also protect her from shame in her toy, just like him. The girl says that it seems this young gentleman was overwhelmed with feelings after talking with her, after which Carla bows and asks to forgive him this time because it's her fault. The first principal heals and understands that this is just another game, and the main character, looking at the girl, understands that as soon as she was left alone with her, only barbs flowed from her mouth. But as soon as she finds herself in the company of men, she turns into an angel. And this seems disgusting to the young lady. Carla says that she will make sure that the girl gets a new dress. Then she tells the servants to prepare the best dress she has and escort this lithium to her rest. Maria wonders if the girl wants her to run away with her tail between her legs. But she is not going to do this, so the lady with silver hair tells Lady Carla not to bother herself. The girl with pink hair does not understand what her interlocutor is talking about, and the main character thinks that everyone is watching their fight, so this is her chance. The young lady looks at Lester and says that she doesn't want to ruin the evening with something as minor as a torn dress. The second prince then tells the young lady to let him ask her to dance, and when they start dancing, the young man asks if the girl is sure of her decision. After all, such an act could be considered rude to the royal family. The new main character says that she is sure that with this act, she will force them all to shut their mouths. The girl understands that this slight awkwardness is worth her plans, so she tells His Highness not to worry about her. Lester just kisses her forehead and offers to show them all Marie's true beauty. The lady with silver hair understands that apparently he too cannot wait to put Lady Carla in her place, after which the young man unties the bow on the young lady's dress, and a simple dress immediately turns into luxurious clothing. Everyone around is saying how elegant this is and how beautiful this dress is. They also claim that the lady who came with His Highness Leicester is so charming, and she attracts glances so easily. The second prince smiles at the young lady, and the main character smiles back at him. People continue to gossip, and say that it seems that the rumors are true, and the first of the 5 princes to marry will be His Highness Leicester. After all, this lady he brought to the ball will most likely be his bride. Carla thinks that she will never tolerate this farce. The girl thinks that she saved this stupid lout, and he still looks at this litter with such frostbite. The main character bows only after the dance. She understands that she initially demanded His Highness to design a dress that would look very simple on the outside, but hide a real masterpiece on the inside. The guy comes up to Marie and thanks her for the dance. The girl sees that the affection meter already shows 16 units, and the young man kisses her ear. The lady with silver hair with a smile on her face thinks that, to tell the truth, she absolutely does not know how to dance, and it is surprising that she did not crush all his legs. The guy says that everyone was so worried about the torn dress, but now everything is fine and none of this matters. The second prince says that this is true because now everyone will see it, and after that he points to the young lady's puck. The main character is shocked by this and blushes a little. Meanwhile, Carla can't believe that a redneck like her could attract so much attention. She approaches the young lady and says what an interesting trick she showed them with her dress. When the main character looks at the girl's affection counter, she sees -20 there. Maria thinks that their stunt seems to have angered the girl even more than she thought, after which she claims that it was His Highness's idea. Carla says that she is so close with His Highness Leicester, and that is why she also wants to make friends with Milady. After which, the girl asks if the young lady would like to share a glass of wine with her, and she herself thinks that she will personally take care of plunging this crappy litter into eternal sleep. The main character thinks that she finally succeeded. She claims that Lady Clara is so kind to her and asks how she can refuse such an offer to a girl, but she herself thinks that it was Carla who fell into her trap. While the young lady was dancing, Alexander was watching her, and he says how beautiful it is, adding about his thoughts that he didn't know that such beautiful dresses were sewn in their empire. The 5th prince wonders if his brother has succumbed to the charms of the one he suspected, so he asks his brother if he really liked her that much. The blonde replies that, yes, he would like to admire her for as long as possible. People whisper among themselves, asking what kind of skilled tailor made this dress, and another girl claimed that she wanted the same one for herself. The Feather Prince understands that everyone at the ball is simply delighted with this dress, and is curious where the girl got it, because if he finds out the details, they can make good money on it. Therefore, he turns to Elliot and claims that he has urgent matters so he can continue surveillance without him. The fifth prince agrees. He thinks that all his life he was used by a sect of magicians in their bloodthirsty rituals, and at one moment he could say goodbye to his life. If it were not for His Highness Alexander, he gave the guy a family and shelter, so the young man is obliged to carry out his will unquestioningly. A short time later, the main character, Carla and Lester, were already sitting at the same table. The girl claimed that there were only 1,000 bottles of this wine left, and she assured that the young lady would like it, after which she told the servant to pour wine for her guests. The main character understands that this label shows that this is wine from Darkuri. The young lady's hands are shaking from tension, so she understands that she needs to calm down. Carla at this time says that as far as she knows, His Highness Leicester prefers wine from the Link Empire. Therefore, she says that if the young man wants it, then she can ask her to pour it for him. The guy takes his hand and asks if, in her opinion, he is unworthy to drink rare wine. But the lady with pink hair asks what he is talking about because she is just sure that the prince will not like it that much. And maybe she will drink a glass of wine from the Link Empire with him for company. The main character understands that they are not drinking the same wine that is poured in her glass. After all, although her wine does not smell anything suspicious, there is no doubt that it is poisoned. Carla's wife says that she hopes the young lady will enjoy such a rare alcohol, which she discovered especially for her. And she herself thinks that this wine contains a special slow-acting poison, and it will gradually dry out the girl's body from the inside. And in a couple of days, the young lady will turn into a skinny mummy. Every day will be like hell for her. Carla says what a wonderful aroma comes from the wine. She thinks that she will make sure that a huge mirror is installed in the young lady's chambers, and she watched with her own eyes how her beauty dried up before her eyes. Carla thinks that only a couple of moments separate her from this unimaginable sight. The main character says that it is not easy to get such an exclusive wine from Darkuri, and the girl must have paid a considerable amount for it. Maria realizes that she does not know what kind of poison it is, but even if she takes a small sip, it can instantly plunge her into a crippled sleep. But she says that she still thinks that it is impolite to open such a rare bottle of wine without treating His Highness Leicester. The girl with pink hair says that their empire is customary to give the best to their guests, so the young lady need not worry because His Highness will not be offended by such behavior. The main character understands that the girl does not want Lester to drink this wine with all her might, and thinks that the answer is that she drinks it. And then, when the wine doesn't work, she will take the young lady by surprise. Carla can't wait for the girl to take a sip. But suddenly, someone takes the glass from the young lady. It turns out to be Lester. He tells Marie that this is wine from her homeland, and the girl must have drunk it often in the company of her family, so he tells the young lady to let him treat himself to this wine. Carla is shocked by this because she definitely didn't expect this. The lady with silver hair screams for His Highness to wait. She understands that he definitely shouldn't drink it. But suddenly, a girl with pink hair snatches the glass from Lester's hands, but the wine spills on his clothes. The guy smiles and says that it's so shameless to jump up and take a glass of wine from him. The girl tries to justify herself, but Lester just says to pour him a new glass of wine, and Carla says that he can't. The prince asks why and if there is another reason why he should not drink this particular wine. The lady with her pink hair says that of course not, and what's more important is that he stained his tailcoat. Therefore, the young lady orders the servant to immediately bring His Highness a new suit. Well, the prince just takes the main character by the hand and invites her to go, after which they leave the girl with pink hair alone. Carla is apparently furious about this. At this time, the maid brings His Highness a change of clothes. She says that if they need anything, then he should not be shy and call. Maria tells her to wait, because the maid must help wash His Highness's body. Lester says that there is no need, because he does not allow the servant to help him change clothes or bathe, because he does not want to frighten them with his appearance. The lady with silver hair understands that he is of royal blood, and it is in the order of things to receive proper treatment for his person, no matter what he looks like. So the young lady helps him. The prince says that she shouldn't touch his skin, because if there really was poison in the wine, then she might get hurt too. But the girl tells him not to worry, because she thinks this poison cannot damage the skin. Otherwise, Lady Carla would not have allowed the wine to spill. The prince says that Marie is very attentive, but the girl only asks why he stopped her. After all, if the wine was sent, then he had physical evidence of her guilt. And the guy says that this is wine from Marie's homeland, and asks why she thinks Carla poisoned this particular wine. The main character understands that he is hinting that the wine could have been poisoned from the beginning, and Carla took advantage of this to throw all the blame on her kingdom. Maria says that wine is one of the main economic sectors in her kingdom, and the girl, blushing a little, says that he not only saved her life, but also preserved the honor of her homeland, so she thanks His Highness. The guy says that they are allies and are obliged to help each other, but he is worried about another question and asks what is happening between the young lady and Alex. After all, as soon as the two of them made eye contact at the ball, they both fell into embarrassment. The girl remembers how she behaved with His Highness, and this makes her blush even more. She claims that there is definitely nothing connecting them. The young lady understands that she cannot say that she had to flirt with Alexander in order to escape from the interrogation, but the young man just leans towards her and asks if Marie is again not telling him something. The girl is embarrassed and offers to talk about this another time. She understands that she is ashamed to even remember this conversation, but suddenly, someone knocks on the door. Lester says he will open it and tells the young lady to wait there. However, when the guy opens the door, he asks who brought it there and sees his younger brother. He asks Eli if this is it, and the young man says that, as he thought, Lady Darkuri is with Lester. The second prince says that he is not in the mood to chat with Eli. Well, the young man just snaps his fingers, and a feather appears in his hands. He says that he just has a couple of questions regarding this feast for his lovely companion. The main character realizes in shock that this is the feather of that dove, and they realize that the girl uses pigeons to communicate with Louis. The fifth prince now asks the princess if she would give him a couple of minutes of her time. Lester stands in front of the lady with silver hair and asks what Eli wants from her. The guy with red hair says that he swears that he is not going to harm her in any way, but the young man says that this is not the answer, and once again asks his brother what he wants. But he only replies that the princess apparently knows what he wants to ask her. The main character then agrees and says that she will go with him. The second prince does not understand why she is doing this, and the girl says that he himself said that he did not intend to harm her, so she will return soon. After this, the guy with red hair tells the princess to follow him, and they leave Lester alone. After that, they enter one of the rooms, and Elliot, using his magic, illuminates it. The main character understands that with one snap of his fingers, he illuminated the entire room with magic, so she claims that it is true what they say about him being the best magician on the entire continent. The young man only asks the princess if she likes magic, and the girl replies that she doesn't really like it. She thinks that, unfortunately, she was born with her gift, because at one time she was so fixated on this sympathy, trying to please everyone around her. But now she claims that magic can be both good and bad, and it all depends on who controls it. The main character notices that the young man is staring at her and looks at him questioningly, and he, realizing that he was staring at the lady, offers to get down to business. After which a magic ball appears in his hands, and the young man claims that the other day, this dove flew out of the guest house of the second prince. The main character says that she simply sent a letter to Prince Louis, because their countries have been friends for many years. The young man asks if this is all, and after that the girl answers yes, but the guy asks if she would then mind if they found out the contents of this message. The lady with silver hair thinks that if His Highness Alexander finds out what they are planning for Louis's son, then she will inevitably die again. But the guy claims that although he can forget about this dove if the girl fulfills one of his requests. The lady with silver hair asks what he is talking about, and then a rose appears in the young man's hands. He invites the young lady to go and admire the rose garden together. Maria is shocked and wonders if she heard something wrong. She once again asks where the young man wants to go, and he claims that he wants to go to the rose garden because the flowering season has just recently arrived, so he can admire them in all their glory. The fifth prince understands that His Highness Alexander often spends time in the garden whenever he needs to collect his thoughts, so the magician is sure that right now he is there. The girl thinks that this is a little strange because the guy promises her to forget about the dove with the letter, so something is clearly wrong there. The young lady once again asks if he wants her to just go with him, and if this is not another trap from His Highness Alexander. The guy assures her that everything is not like that at all, but he himself thinks that he just wants his brother to spend time with his lady who he liked. So he asks what he needs to do to earn the young lady's trust. The main character then tells him to show her his face without a mask, because he does not allow anyone to see his face. But if a guy really wants her trust, then there is no need for him to hide his face in front of her. The girl understands that Prince Elliot never goes out in public without a mask, and no one does. Apart from the royal family, I have never seen him without a mask. For everyone, he is an introverted prince who does not let anyone get close to him, preferring to keep his heart and personality a secret from everyone. The young lady thinks what he will do now, and the guy asks if he really understands, and if he takes off the meat, the girl will go with him. The young lady thinks that he wants to go to the garden with her so much that he is ready to reveal his identity to, essentially, a stranger. Therefore, she says that yes, and she is not going to go back on her words. The guy understands that he wears this mask on purpose, while still hiding from the vein that the occultists of the dark arts hung on him. However, if he can somehow pay Alexander for saving his life, then he is obliged to do everything in his power. So he starts to take off his mask, and having finished with a slight blush, he asks the princess not to go back on her words. The main character thinks that he turned out to be nicer than she expected, the guy, asking if the princess is happy, and the young lady thinks that agreeing to such a dangerous adventure is madness, but she says that she will go with the young man. Then the guy thanks the princess. He begins to put his mask back on and invites the young lady to close her eyes. And a little later, they find themselves in a garden with roses. The main character says how beautiful it is there. She claims that this is the first time she has seen such a variety of roses, and the young man replies that His Highness Alexander really likes roses. Maria thinks how surprising it is that such a cruel person as Alexander likes such elegant flowers. The young man says that if the girl likes the rose, then she can safely take it for herself. The girl asks if this is true, and the prince replies that everything is so. Then the main character chooses one of the roses and picks it. She claims that she has never seen such a beautiful rose. And the fifth prince says that this rose is called Lorana, and this type of rose is very common in their empire. There's also a very beautiful legend associated with this rose. The main character asks what kind of legend this is, and whether the young man can tell it. The guy claims that a long time ago, the king of their country fell in love with a commoner but before he can finish his story, he notices His Highness. So the young man immediately turns around and says that he will tell this story later. After all, he suddenly remembered that he forgot one thing in the workshop, so the girl can wait for him here. Maria asks where he is, but by this time the guy has already disappeared into thin air. The main character thinks that he was trying to escape from someone, but when the girl continues on her way, she crashes into someone. She immediately bends down and tries to collect the papers. The girl apologizes and claims that she wasn't looking where she was going, and it's all her fault. But when she sees who she ran into, she thinks how unlucky I am. His Highness the First Prince asks what the girl is doing there, and the young lady replies that His Highness Elliot invited her to the garden to admire the roses. But when she hands one of the papers to Alexander, she asks what it is. The young man replies that the young lady's dress amazed everyone, and every lady at the ball whispered about how she wanted to buy the same dress. So he thought that this could be another source of income. The lady with silver hair says that she doesn't think this is a good idea. Then His Highness asks why the girl thinks so, and the main character replies that although her dress turned out to be very impressive, its design is quite complex, after which she invites His Highness to take a look. The girl claims that at first glance, pulling the belt and revealing a completely different dress is not some complicated idea. When modeling such a dress, you need to think about the style, the fabric of both dresses, and also the dress may not open the first time. Therefore, although the payment is great, it took a lot of time and materials to achieve such a result. The young man thinks that Maria is unusually smart, and she wonders if it was she who came up with such a dress and controlled the whole process with the tailor, and the young lady says that the production of such a dress will require a lot of money and investments, and perhaps these costs will not lead to the expected result. The first prince says that these were very useful comments, so he will take them into account, but then he points to this rose. The main character says that His Highness Elliot allowed her to pick any rose she liked, and she herself thinks that he is probably angry that the girl still came there. But the young lady remembers that Alexander seems to love roses, and maybe she will be able to soften his anger a little. So the young lady hands him the rose she recently picked. But when the girl hands him a rose, His Highness is embarrassed. He realizes that it is Laurent's rose. In the Link Empire, if a person gives you this rose, it is comparable to a declaration of love. According to legend, the king fell in love with a commoner, but despite their different status, he gave this rose to his beloved, swearing eternal love. They got married, and their couple was loved by all the people. This legend is still very popular in the Empire, and giving a rose to Laurent is a very tender and sensual gesture. But he thinks that the young lady does not know about this legend, so he asks why she doesn't give this rose to Lester. The main character asks if he thinks so, and then agrees. Damn the Heat thinks that for the young lady, this is an ordinary rose, and she did not put any meaning into this gesture. and the young lady claims that she hopes His Highness Leicester will like her gift, because any man would be happy to receive a gift from his beloved. At this time, the prince felt some pain in his heart, and the silver-haired lady said that then let her deviate. But Alexander tells her to wait. The girl looks at him and asks if His Highness wants to ask anything else. The girl in her thoughts asks him not to start a new interrogation and just let her go. The young man can't think of anything better than to ask if she can tell him a little more about her dress. He understands that he can't just let her go, and there's clearly something wrong with him, and the main character wonders if he's so excited about the idea of creating a new business. The girl understands what she can tell, but she has already explained almost everything to him. The young lady claims that silk embroidery was used to sew the dress, and although it is almost invisible, it looks better in the light. But when a light wind blew, the young lady's hair rose a little, and His Highness noticed a hickey on her neck. His Highness the First Prince wonders if Leicester really installed it and blushes at the thought. The blonde is wondering what he is even thinking about. At this time, the main character turns to His Highness, and he, all nervous, asks what it is. The young lady understands that she has the feeling that he is not listening to her at all, and also blushed. Therefore, the girl asks if everything is okay with him. Well, the young man only at that moment snatches the papers from her hands and screams that everything is fine. He says that he found out everything he needed, so he wishes Lady Darkuri all the best. The young lady wonders what happened to him, but looking at the counter above his head, I saw the number 11 there. At this time, the fifth prince was approaching from behind, like a young lady. He apologizes for the wait, but the main character is scared because he appeared very suddenly. The girl knows that he is a magician, but does not understand why he should sneak up like that. The young man with red hair says that he will escort the young lady to her chambers, because Brother Leicester must have been waiting for her. Maria asks if he has already found what he was looking for in the workshop, but the guy answers that yes, and he found the tool he needed, after which he immediately went to her. But he realizes that he was actually watching their conversation all this time, and is very glad that everything went well. The main character says that he sees that he is pleased with himself, but she hopes he won't forget their conversation. The girl understands that this is the only reason she agreed to go there. The young man claims that, of course, he has never seen any dove. Then the main character smiles and extends her hand to him, after which they find themselves already at Leicester's estate. But when the girl opens the door, Leicester immediately hugs her. He says thank God Marie is okay. The main character asks if the prince was so worried about her, but the girl thinks, although she can understand his feelings, after all, within the walls of the palace lives a crazy woman who killed his beloved, and he is afraid that he might lose someone again. But the girl will never allow this, because she will not only save her life, but will also finish off that bastard Louis. Leicester invites the lady to go into the room because they need to draw up a plan for further action. The main character wonders if he is talking about a plan regarding Carla. The young man replies that she is right, but then he sees a rose in the young lady's hands and asks about it. The girl thinks that she wanted to give it to Leicester. She holds out this rose and says that His Highness Elliot showed her the rose garden and allowed her to pick any rose she liked, and now she gives this rose to Leicester. The guy is a little shocked by this and asks if Elliot told him. What does the Laurent rose mean in the language of flowers? The main character says no, and this rose just seemed very beautiful to her, so she picked it. The young man asks if this is all, and Maria asks what the meaning of this rose is. The guy claims that according to legend, King Link gave it to his beloved, who was a commoner, and in the language of flowers, this rose means eternal and pure love. The main character now understands that she wanted to give this rose to that psycho Alexander, and the second prince takes this rose and says that he will accept it anyway. But the young lady tells him to wait, because this rose is given to a special person, and they do not have any feelings for each other, so she would rather give this thunderstorm to another person. But the young man claims that he has already received this rose from her, and does not intend to give it back. Then the main character tells His Highness not to be so harmful, and Leicester asks who she was going to give this rose to. The girl replies that she was going to give it to her nanny Ayla, because for her, she is like a second mother. The girl understands that Ayla is a person dear to her heart, so she wants to give this rose to her. Then the young man claims that if so, he will return this rose, and the main character thanks him. But the second prince insists that she take into account that Laurent wants to receive the next rose. The main character is silent in response to this, and she herself thinks that even if this is just a joke, for some reason from his lips, it sounds like the guy is not really trying to get it from her. But when the main character heads down the corridor, She sees the maids whispering excitedly and asking if something happened. The girls apologize and say that they can't find Ayla. Then the young lady, in shock, asks if her nanny is missing. After all, before the start of the ball she was there, and it was the nanny who helped her put on the dress. One of the maids claims that they were missing some ingredients for tomorrow's dinner, so they sent a coachman to the city, and Ayla was asked to give him a list, but she never returned. Maria then asks if the girls know Kucherov was driving the carriage. The girl understands that this is the guest house of the second prince, and no one would allow a carriage with a coachman whom they did not know. The maid says that, unfortunately, she does not know his name, but she definitely remembers that he carried a sword with him. Lester, in shock, asks if he carried a sword, because, if so, it was not a coachman, but a soldier of the royal family. The main character hopes that they are joking, and the young man continues and says that besides the soldiers, only his older brother Alexander and Lady Carla's servants can carry weapons. The silver-haired lady realizes that Carla has kidnapped Ayla, and the nanny is sitting in the basement at this time. The lady with pink hair says that the kidnapping was the right decision after all. She grins and apologizes to Madame, saying that she had nothing to do with it, but her Madame is to blame for this. The girl claims that she is confident that Maria will come and save her nanny, but the woman asks what the girl is trying to achieve. But then a dagger is pressed to her throat, and Carla says that it's nothing, and they will just wait until her mistress comes to Ayla's rescue and immediately grabs her. After all, she dared to touch her main treasure, so she can't help but teach the girl a lesson. The nanny asks what she is talking about, and the girl replies, so that she doesn't worry, Maria will not immediately fall into eternal sleep, and first she will disfigure the girl's beautiful face. Then she will give every man the opportunity to take advantage of her beautiful body, and in the end, he will cut off her legs and arms while watching her live out the last minute of her life. The nanny then claims that she will not allow them to do this. She snatches the knife from the guard's hands, and then she directs it at herself and understands that she needs to plunge herself into eternal sleep, and then the princess will definitely not appear there. But suddenly, someone hits the nanny, and the lady with pink hair says how stupid Madame is. And even if she plunges herself into eternal sleep, then the fate of her mistress is predetermined. The girl with pink hair tells the servants not to put Madame into eternal sleep, and she also allows you to have fun with her body until the princess arrives there. Leicester only grabs the main character by the hand and screams, "Where's I going to thaw?" And Maria screams that she needs to be saved, Aylu. The main character understands that she needs to hurry, because only God knows what Carla's up to. Lester asks the girl if she even understands how to rashly go alone, and the main character then screams out what the prince is offering then. But His Highness says that first. We need to calm down because Carla will not plunge her into eternal sleep. The main character thinks that she swore that she would protect her nanny even at the cost of her life. Therefore, the girl screams how they don't understand that the nanny is more valuable to her than her own life. The main character thinks that she is ready to sacrifice everything she has just for her sake. Therefore, the girl says that Carla is ruthless and insane, and what should they do if she is already done with Ayla says something terrible. After which she tells the prince to let her go now, but Lester grabs her hand and pulls her back. After which she kisses him on the cheek. The main character, shocked by this, asks what His Highness is doing, and the young man with silver hair asks if she has calmed down. After which he picks up the rose from the floor, and he says that the young lady dropped her gift, after which the guy says that whoever will go to Carla is him, and the girl can wait there after that. One of the roomers approaches them with a scroll. The main character asks what it is, and Lester replies that he remembers their agreement, and that's why the girl wanted a friendly pact with their empire. As soon as the main character's maid returns to the guest house, let them immediately leave with her back to their homeland. The main character looks at the document in shock and asks why the guy did this and what about his freedom. But Lester only says that enough is enough, and he will go to Carla and promise to marry her in exchange for the life of the young lady and the life of her nanny. The main character, in shock, asks what he is talking about, and in her thoughts adds whether he decided to marry this crazy woman to save them, and whether the guy is ready to give up his freedom for her sake. At the same moment, the main character tells him to wait. The girl claims that she is against it, and does not need His Highness to sacrifice himself. But the prince replies that his father himself wanted him to be married to Carl, and their plan was initially doomed to failure. The guy takes the main character by the hand and says that his father was never on the side of his sons and would never have accepted the girl as his bride. Lester tells Marie that everything is fine and let at least one of them find their happiness, after which he leaves. The main character screams for him to wait and then tears up the peace pact. A young man with silver hair asks in shock what she is doing, And the main character replies that if he really thought that happiness would make her happy at such a price, then His Highness clearly doesn't know her well. After all, the girl is not going to give up to Carla and offers to fight together, because she believes that the prince, more than anyone else, deserves happiness. When the main character looks at the counter above his head, she sees the number 26 there. And then the main character reaches out and offers to sign a peace pact once they deal with Carla once and for all. Then he asks what His Highness will say to this. The lady with silver hair thinks that she will not let Carla get away with it after everything she has done. The prince takes the main character's hand and thanks her, and the girl claims that she is sure there are many more ways to find Ayla in another way. Movies, for example, ask His Highness Elliot to kidnap Ayla using magic. The girl understands that this is the fastest and most effective way of them all, but Lester says that the young lady does not quite understand how strong Eli is, and if he demonstrates his true strength to everyone, it will cost him his life, because few magicians have the magic of teleportation. And for people, such magic is associated with dark arts, so if an outsider sees his true steelies, then he can easily be accused of using dark magic and executed. The main character thinks how they can then save Ayla without sacrificing anyone's life. And the prince says that the only force that will help them save Ayla is Alexander's elite squad called the Thunderbolts. The main character asks who they are, and she understands that it seems she saw Alexander training the guys in the royal garden. The second prince replies that Alex is the first prince of the empire and the only son of the queen. He is the only one of the 5 princes whose authority is comparable to the king, and if he agrees to help them, then something might work out. The main character then grabs Lester by the shoulder and screams that they will go. The girl claims that she will explain everything to His Highness Alexander and ask for his support. The young man with silver hair says that then he will prepare a carriage and they will head there, but the main character says that she does not think that this is a good idea, because Carla will immediately understand where they are going and can take countermeasures. The main character thinks that Carl's residence is located opposite the headquarters of the first prince, and if they want their plan to work, then they need to go to Alexander without attracting too much attention to themselves. Lester replies that he is fine and states that he will then send a messenger with a letter to Alex and describe their situation. The main character responds that this is good, and as soon as the guy finishes, they can immediately move forward to His Highness. A short time later, the young lady is ready to leave, and at this time, the prince reads the letter from the messenger, in which it is written that Princess Darkuri's nanny was kidnapped, and if Carla finds out about their plans, she will immediately get rid of the hostage. The prince thinks that a detachment of Thunderbolts will be able to cope with Carla's bodyguards, and Lester was well aware of this, which is why he turned to him for help. Alexander addresses Elliot and then orders him something. After this, a servant enters the room and claims that His Highness the First Prince wants to see Mr. Leicester. Then the blonde says, "Let him come in," and the main character, together with the second prince, enters the room. The master says that his brother must have received his letter, but the blonde interrupts him and says that he refuses. The young man with silver hair is shocked by this. He asks his brother why he doesn't want to give the order to the Thunderers, because Carla literally took a hostage from a foreign country, but the prince says that at the moment there are many guests from other countries living in the palace. So let his brother imagine their surprise when a fight breaks out between the royal family over some nanny. The main character thinks that the prince talks about her nanny so frivolously. Well, the girl is ready to give her life for her. The main character says that she understands that in the eyes of the prince, she is an ordinary servant. But for her, the nanny is part of the family, so Maria asks His Highness for help. The prince then comes closer and tells the young lady not to shout so much. After all, he said that he would not involve the Thunderbolts in this conflict, but this does not mean that he will not help them. The prince claims that he will deal with Carla personally, and then leaves. The main character screams for him to wait, but Alexander just gets on his horse. Then Maria asks to let her go with him because the life of a member of her family is at stake, so the girl cannot just stand on the sidelines. The first prince then takes the main character and places her next to him. The young lady says a little excitedly that she can mount another horse. However, Alexander says that in the royal stable, there is no one faster than the griffin, so the young lady must hold on tighter, after which they are already on their way. Lester orders the servant to prepare a horse for him. A short time later, the main character already arrives at the place, and Alexander helps her get off the horse. The prince claims that he said that he would deal with everyone, and asks why the girl just followed him, and the main character thinks that this horse is just some kind of monster, and she can't even feel her legs. The blonde, noticing how beautiful the main character looks, gets a little embarrassed and looks away, after which he claims that they are almost at the dungeon and he will check the territory for additional security. But for now, the main character can sit down and take a breath. When the main character sits on a bench, she thinks how her legs hurt, and suddenly someone appears behind her. It turns out to be the first prince. He claims that everything is clean there so they can go, and the main character then asks if His Highness has already examined everything, and she herself thinks how he managed it so quickly. The guy strokes his horse and says that he's done well, and also claims that they will be back soon so the griffin can wait for them there. After which he extends his hand to the main character and asks if she can go. When the girl answers that yes, then they are on their way. A short time later, they already see the entrance to the dungeon, and the prince says that they need to go this way. When the main character sees the guards lying on the floor, she wonders if the guy really dealt with all the guards alone, and the prince only opens the doors to the dungeon. He claims that all that remains is to go down the stairs, after which they do so. The main character thinks that she sees worse in the dark, so it's better to go down slowly, but suddenly the girl almost falls and almost makes a loud sound. Alexander covers her mouth with his hand and whispers that he asked her not to make noise. The main character understands that he is right, but she doesn't believe it on purpose. The blonde then takes the young lady's hand, and the main character is a little surprised by this and asks what he is doing. The prince tells the girl to hold on tight, but she sees worse in the dark, and if she holds on to him, she will definitely not fall. Maria thinks that she perceived him as a strict, crazy psycho, but His Highness not only decided to help them with Lester, but also shows concern for her. But when these two go around the corner, they see that there is another guard there. This makes Maria a little scared, and the prince, without losing his vigilance, immediately cuts his torch and knocks the guard unconscious. The main character thinks that the prince was holding her hand all this time, but he knocked out the guard with such ease. The blonde then claims that they are almost there. The main character says that this is good, and then sees that the door to one of the cells is open. But when the girl looks there, she sees what is lying on the floor in her Ayla. The main character lets go of the prince's hand and runs to her nanny. But having arrived there, the girl thinks why all the security is passed out, after which she turns to Ale, who is unconscious. The fifth prince, who is on the side, says that the nanny is all right, and it seems that she was knocked out with a blunt object. But he did not find any more serious wounds. And the main character is sorry for crying because of this. She immediately runs up to the young man with red hair and says that he saved her, after which she thanks His Highness. Alexander looks at them angrily, and the young man with red hair understands that he is jealous. He immediately distances himself from the main character and says that His Highness Alexander personally ordered him to deal with the guards inside the dungeon, and it was his idea. Maria then turns to the first prince and thinks that she should thank the blonde for everything he has done, after which she approaches His Highness and thanks him. The blonde just turns away and says that there is no need for gratitude, after which he begins to kick one of the guards. The main character thinks why beat him, he's already passed out, and the young man with red hair says that he knocked out the guard with magic, but His Highness wants to leave marks of the struggle on them to hide his participation. Maria realizes that despite his status, His Highness Elliot faces execution if he does not hide his true potential. But suddenly, the prince tells his brother to leave because someone is coming. Then the magician does just that. The main character, when she turns around, sees a girl with pink hair. She asks what His Highness is doing there. The lady with silver hair realizes that this is Carla, and the prince then turns to her and tells the girl to bother explaining what is happening there. And why did she take an innocent man hostage? A girl with pink hair asks if the nanny is really innocent. And in her thoughts, she adds that of all those who could have been attracted by this litter, the girl brought Alexander. But for this case, Carla had her own plan, so she claims that this innocent lady stole her jewelry. The girl with pink hair thinks, how long will the first prince of the empire, Link, defend this litter? The main character, looking at the wallet, thinks that it definitely does not belong to Ayla. And the girl with pink hair speaks, that these jewelry are a gift from His Highness Leicester, and Lady Darkuri ordered them to be stolen, clearly harboring a strong grudge against her. But since Maria is there, let her take responsibility and admit to what she did. Carla thinks she will get rid of both of them once and for all. The main character says that she did not order anything like that to her nanny. And the girl with pink hair asks how the young lady will prove this. Otherwise, where could her nanny get these jewelry? The main character only asks what prevented the real criminal from throwing this wallet to Ayla and accusing her of theft. Carla is a little wary of this, but the main character continues and claims that since these are gifts dear to Carla from His Highness Lester, then why didn't she take them away right away? And she left this wallet right in the hands of the thief. The girl understands that Carla is trying with all her might to shift the blame onto her and Ela. The lady with pink hair asks how she knows, because her bodyguards caught the nanny and sent her to prison, and she just came to pick up the stolen goods. Carla smiles and thinks that no matter how hard Maria tries, her nephew will believe Hay and not some stranger from a foreign country. The main character wonders if Alexander really won't believe her, and she will be unfairly executed again. The girl immediately turns to His Highness and screams whether he thinks that Carla's words are not at all suspicious. The girl understands that if His Highness believes the villainess, then for the rest of her life she will consider him a complete cretin. And the girl with pink hair turns to Alexander and says that he understands that she has no need to lie. Carla understands that the guy values his status and the influence of the royal family, so he will never create a conflict over some kind of litter. But Alexander only lowers his ball and claims that he will not allow Carla to discredit the name of their imperial family with her selfish whims. So he orders the girl to let the woman go now. The lady with pink hair, shocked by this, screams for the guy to wait because she is his niece and a member of the royal family. But the blonde says that her origin does not decide anything if she commits a crime, and if the girl continues to deny it, he will send her to court. Carla then points to one of the guards, and then he draws his sword from its sheath and begins to attack His Highness. The main character screams for His Highness to look back, and the prince immediately deals with a bunch of guards, and they fall to the floor in front of the feet of a girl with pink hair. The blonde then looks coldly at Carla, and she fearfully apologizes and says that apparently her bodyguards misunderstood the situation, and for this they received a severe punishment. The prince then says that as punishment, the lady with pink hair will lose her bodyguards from this day on, and until the end of the festival, he forbids her to leave the walls of her room, and right now, the girl will apologize to Princess Darchuri. The main character is a little shocked by this, and Carla is very outraged because she is a member of the royal family. And now I must bow my head before the princess of a small and pathetic country. But Alexander only sticks the sword into the ground and tells the girl to move. This makes Carla scared, and he bows to the main character, asking her to forgive her, and then he leaves in a rage. Alexander at this time turns to the main character and says that he also wants to apologize to her. After all, Maria and her nanny suffered at the hands of a member of the royal family. But he promises that this will not happen again, and he will personally see to it. The main character says that he shouldn't apologize because the guy has done so much for him and Isla. And most importantly, her nanny is okay. Maria thinks that thank God everything ended well. And the prince, looking at the main character, thinks that in such a situation any lady would have turned pale with fear, but the girl holds on steadfastly, after which the blonde tells Elliot to leave. The guy with red hair agrees, and the main character turns to him and asks if he can cure Ayla. Then His Highness replies that he can, but he is forbidden to use healing magic on anyone other than himself. The blonde then approaches them and says that they will take the nanny to the healing house, and Luca's herbs will quickly get her back on her feet. The main character then says that she will be very grateful to them, but she herself thinks that. The third prince of the Link Empire, Luca, is a scientist who devoted all his research to botany, and he can make medicine to help Ayla. The girl asks if she can go to the healing house with her nanny because she doesn't want to leave her in this state. Alexander says that of course she can, and the prince with red hair says that she can do as she wishes. After which he takes the young lady by the hand and says that he will accompany them. The blonde tells his brother to come to his office after he finishes. The young man with red hair just smiles and then teleports away. Lester, while on the street, sees a girl with pink hair coming out of the dungeon. The second prince wonders if Carla came out completely alone, but then he sees that Alexander also comes out after her. Therefore, he immediately runs up to his brother and thinks, "Where is Marie and why is she not with him?" So the guy asks about it. The first prince replies that Mary and her nanny have gone to the house for healing, and Elliot will accompany them. Ayla, although not seriously, was hurt, so she needs treatment and peace, and Marie wanted to be with her. Lester wonders since when did his brother treat Marie so disrespectfully, as if they had become friends. The young man with silver hair says that he is grateful to his brother for his help, but he could take care of the rest himself. The blonde then asks if he took care of it so late at night, and Lester replies that the girl is his lover and he can take full responsibility for her. Until recently, his brother considered her a spy. Alexander just jumps on his horse and says that Marie herself wanted to stay with her nanny and did not refuse Elliot's help. And about the second one, he no longer suspects her. The young man with silver hair thinks in shock how he cannot suspect the girl, and the blonde man turns to his brother and says that if he is so worried about the girl, then let him go to the healing house. A little time later, Alexander is already looking for Elliot throughout the house. He realizes that he was not in the office and in the room either, so he wonders if he could be in the bathroom. After which the first prince says that he is entering. Well, the maids only claim that Lady Marie's bath is ready. The blonde then goes all red and wonders what the girl left in Elliot's bathroom. A little time ago, when the fifth prince arrived at the healing house, he claimed that this lady urgently needed a healer, after which they laid the main character's nanny on the bed, and a little time later she woke up. And the first words that she said after opening her eyes were that thank God my lady is all right. Maria said that this was enough, and that everything was fine with her, but the nanny suffered a little. The main character understands that she was not only knocked out, but also beaten, so she says that the nanny now needs to rest, so let her listen to the doctors. Elliot at this time orders the servants to prepare a warm bath with rose oil for their guests, after which he turns to Lady Marie and says that the doctors will take care of Madame Allah, and she should also rest and, for example, take a bath. The main character thinks that, to be honest, she would really like to wash off all the dirt in a long day, so she thanks the prince. After which she asks the maids to take care of Ayla. They just smile at the girl and tell the lady to rely on them. Alexander is now thinking, well, the girl forgot Elliot in the bathroom. The maids ask the mistress how she likes the water and whether it is too hot. Maria replies that no, and everything is fine, and the smell is simply amazing. One of the maids claims that His Highness Elliot ordered the addition of rose oil to soften the skin, and it is His Highness Alexander's favorite scent. The blonde wonders what his brother asked him to do, and the main character, looking into the bath with rose petals, thinks whether she could still be mistaken. Alexander will start. After which she says that His Highness Alexander turned out to be kinder than she expected, and the guy is a little embarrassed by this. One of the maids then tells the main character that he is just such a person, so he asks the young lady not to doubt him, and the second one tells the head maid that the girl is a princess, so I should behave so rudely with her. The head maid then apologizes and says that Mr. Alexander just did so much good for them. The main character then just smiles and says that it's okay, and to tell the truth, she appears to the maids. She remembers the atmosphere that reigned in her home. The girl understands that in the royal family, all the servants are like part of the family, and they always spent time together. After this, one of the maids asks if His Highness Lester left a mark on the main character's neck. Maria, looking at this trail, thinks about how best to explain it, and then claims that in a dream, His Highness confused her with his beloved dog, and then he bit. The girl claims that he fell asleep right next to her and began biting her neck in his sleep, but she herself was shocked to hear who he was kissing in his dream. The blonde is then a little surprised, and now he understands that the hickey was caused by accident, but then the guy gets embarrassed and thinks, why the hell does it matter to him? The maid heat they say that His Highness Leicester has always been distinguished by a romantic new you, in contrast to His Highness Alexander. But His Highness Alexander simply always approaches everything so seriously, and this scares off the ladies of the court. And the main character understands that for the same reason he scared her away. Maria says that she thinks that His Highness actually has a lot of admirers, and the head maid replies that she thinks so too, and all the maids admire His Highness Alexander. After which she asks the lady what she thinks about His Highness. The girls are already in anticipation of gossip. And the main character then smiles and says that she admires him just like they do. The head maid says that she knew so, and claims that the young lady should get to know His Highness better, because she is sure that the girl will be imbued with lighter feelings for him. After this, one of the maids now offers to wash Mrs. Darkuri's hair. His Highness Alexander at this time stands all red near the door and thinks about those words of admiration. The guy grabs the door handle and realizes that this is definitely not the conversation he needed to hear and then leaves the room. A short time later, the main character comes to her nanny, and she claims that everything is fine with her and she can return to her business. But when the woman tries to get up, pain pierces her body. Maria comes up to her and says that, yes, she forgot to think about these matters, because until the woman recovers completely, she will not see any work. At this time, Elliot enters the room, and he tells Lady Marie that breakfast is already waiting for her. The main character turns up and says that she'll come over now, and when she leaves, she tells Ayla to rest. A short time later, Elliot asks how Madame Ela is feeling, and the main character says that thanks to the medicine of His Highness Luca, she is already much better and is already eager to work. The young man with red hair says that he is glad to hear this, but for the nanny to fully recover, he should rest for a couple more days. The main character, noticing someone at the table, wishes good morning. It turns out to be His Highness Alexander, and he also wishes the girl good morning. The main character thinks what happened to him. After all, the prince didn't even look at her, and did she really do something wrong again? Maria says that thanks to the support of His Highness, Ayla received decent treatment and rest, so she wants to once again express her gratitude to him. His Highness the Prince only says that there is no need to thank him again, and Maria thinks what's wrong with him. The prince at this time thinks that he needs to calm down and pretend that he didn't hear anything last night, and also behave naturally. After which he asks if the girl is tired of all this politeness, and the main character asks what he is talking about. The blonde says that calling him by his full name and title is a bit too much, and people usually just call him Alex. But the guy, looking back at his newspaper, thinks what he's talking about, and he seems to be begging her for the girl to call him differently. The main character says that he is the first prince of the empire and she should show him due respect. But the blonde just says that he doesn't care, and then the main character asks what he's talking about. His Highness the Crown Prince says that the girl can call him whatever her heart desires. Maria wonders what happened to His Highness and why he is so angry. And then the lady with silver hair addresses Mr. Alex not by title, and she herself thinks whether he will calm down if she does this. But when he looks at the guy, he sees that his affection has increased and thinks what that just happened. And the blonde, when they turn to Maria and asks if she herself is okay with him using such an informal address to her. After all, it's one thing when Lester treats her like that, and another when he. The main character replies that this does not offend her at all, and Mr. Alexander can simply address her by name. But looking at the sympathy meter, the main character sees that she has increased again. But the guy a second ago was angry with her. His Highness the Crown Prince thinks why he is so pleased with this, and he is the first prince of the empire, so he must behave with dignity. But the prince's level of sympathy is growing and growing. He turns to the main character and tells her not to misunderstand him, because the fact that they call each other by name means absolutely nothing. Maria is in complete shock at how quickly the prince's affection is growing, and she thinks that it is almost 30%. And although the girl does nothing, sympathy grows by itself. After this, the main character smiles and says that, of course, it's a pity she understands. And the prince's sympathy increases once again. The blonde thinks why the young lady is looking at him like that. And the main character, when she sees that his sympathy is already 35 units, she thinks that his sympathy is growing and growing. His Highness the Crown Prince at this time thinks that the girl is looking straight into his eyes and wonders if she really likes talking to him. Well, then the blonde turns to Marie and says that she must be hungry, after which they claim that he asked to prepare the most popular dishes of their empire, so the girl should not be shy and try them. The silver-haired lady thanks the prince and then tries one of the berries. The girl thinks how delicious it is, and then asks His Highness if he would like to have breakfast with her. The blonde replies that he has already eaten, so the young lady can eat to her health. Their main character thanks him. The girl thinks what kind of berry this is because she has never eaten anything like this before, and the prince, looking at her, thinks that Marie must be having a much more fun time in the company of Lester. A young man with red hair, watching all this, understands that his brother has lost heart again, so it's time to take countermeasures. A little while later, as His Highness the Crown Prince heads down the corridor, his brother addresses him, and then they handed over 2 tickets and claims that very soon there will be a fair, which he organized personally, so he asks if Alexander wants to go to it with Lady Marie. The blonde, when he asks why he should go with her, and the young man with red hair says that Lady Carla treated their guests very disrespectfully and like the first prince. He must take responsibility for their niece's actions and apologize properly to Lady Darkuri. But the blonde replies that he thinks the young lady would be better off going with Lester, and in her thoughts she adds that it is with him that she smiles so brightly. The 5th prince tells his brother not to think about His Highness Leicester, but about what he himself wants. The blonde then unclenches his fists and takes the ticket to his brother. He claims that he doesn't want Lester to misunderstand this trip to the theater, so Elliot will go with them. The young man with red hair then just smiles and says that Marie should be in her room now so that the blonde can go to her and invite her to the fair. His Highness the Crown Prince agrees, but Elliot thinks that maybe he is in too much of a hurry and his brother is not yet ready for more decisive action. A little time later, he will already appear in the room of the main character, and the girl asks who it is, and the Crown Prince replies that it is him, that is Alexander. Then Maria opens the door and asks if he needs anything, and the blonde replies that he once again wanted to apologize for the behavior of his niece. The main character says that it's not worth it, but she herself thinks that he has already done enough for her and Isla, so she cannot demand more. The guy gives her tickets and says that as an apology, he wants to invite her to a performance at the Royal Theatre. The main character understands that this is the most popular theater on the entire continent, and even the aristocrats from the Link Empire cannot get at least one ticket. The blonde says that Elliot gave him these tickets, so the main character interrupts him and asks if he wants to go with her. His Highness the Crown Prince is a little surprised by this, and the main character, looking at his sympathy scale, sees that it has increased again. Maria then asks if the guy wants her to go with Isla, because if so, unfortunately, the nanny is still not feeling well, and she thinks that she should refrain from going anywhere. And the blonde then says that he is not talking about that, and the main character thinks that the guy must be talking about Lester, because they are everyone's lovers. After which the girl asks if Mr. Alexander wants her to go with His Highness Lester. The blonde screams that no, but then he is surprised by his own actions, and says that Elliot is the organizer of the production, so he cannot go with him. So he asks the young lady if she would like to go with him. The main character understands that it would be impolite to refuse his invitation. Yes, and Ayla needs peace and quiet, because this way she can at least get a little rest from it. Therefore, Maria, with a smile on her face, claims that she loves the theater and will gladly keep him company. His Highness the Crown Prince also smiles in response to this, and says that during the day there is a fair next to the theater, so they can take a walk there before the performance starts. The main character then turns around and says that then she will change her clothes right away, and the blonde then becomes a little wary, and realizes that the girl will now think that they are going on some kind of date. So he screams that Elliot will still go with them so that Lester doesn't have to worry about it. Maria, in response to this, just smiles and thinks that she and Lester are not in love with each other, so she thinks that the guy won't care. A short time later, His Highness the Crown Prince is already near the carriage. The red-haired young man behind him thinks he's like a third wheel there. Therefore, Elliot claims that he needs to check on how the final rehearsal is going with the actors, so he asks if his brother can take a walk without him. But the blonde asks a little nervously if this is really necessary. Elliot then turns around and thinks how creepy this is, and His Highness the Crown Prince claims that he doesn't want to be alone with her. The fifth prince smiles in response to this, and thinks that his brother really does not have any experience communicating with girls, and this time he will have to help him. A little time later, the main character already arrives and apologizes for the wait. The blonde turns around and says that there is no need to apologize because they are in no hurry. But when he sees the main character, he is embarrassed, and the accident asks if bodyguards will accompany them. Alexander only asks why they need bodyguards, and the main character then understands that with her is the first prince of the empire and the captain of the strongest squad of knights, the Thunderbolts, as well as the strongest magician on the continent. Therefore, the girl thinks that they really won't need any security with them, and says that she also thinks that they don't need security. His Highness the Crown Prince extends his hand to her at this time, and the young man with red hair, seeing this, smiles and says that they are leaving. A short time later, they are already at the festival. The main character claims that it is very lively there, and the prince says that a magnificent fair is organized during the birthday celebration. Looking at the main character's face, he thinks that the young lady seems to be having fun, and Maria then notices one of the entertainments, and the prince, approaching there, says that this is an ordinary shooting gallery, and by hitting the target several times in a row, you can win a prize. After which he puts a handful of gold coins in the merchant's hand, and he is very surprised by this. And the prince picks up a gun and starts shooting, after which he hits the target, and then asks if the young lady wants to try. The main character says yes, but she doesn't think that she will succeed as well as His Highness. The girl understands that she can shoot a bow, but she has never tried shooting a gun. The blonde then tells the young lady to stand up straight and stretch out her chest and then straighten her shoulders. The lady with silver hair does so, and the prince tells her to look straight at the sight. By doing so, the main character pulls the trigger and hits the target, after which she turns to His Highness the Crown Prince, and with a smile on her face says that she succeeded. But then the girl realizes what an awkward situation they are in and is embarrassed just like the prince. The young man then pulls away and says that he thinks Marie can handle it herself now, and the main character replies that yes. And a little time later, having hit the target a couple more times, she realizes that this is more fun than she thought. The merchant says that the lady with silver hair is great, and for the first time he sees a lady wielding a weapon so well, the prince at that time shoots near them and hits the target, after which he claims that it is not as difficult as it seems to them, and smiles, and the main character wonders if he just grinned at her. At this time, a young man with red hair approaches his brother and asks what he is doing, because it is customary for girls to give in. But then they notice the young lady fire a couple more shots, and all of them hit the target. The main character asks if an ordinary lady can do this, and the merchant says that if they hit the target 5 times, they will receive a prize, after which he points to the hairpin, and the main character turns to Alex, offering to make a bet. The girl says that whoever hits the targets faster will take the reward, and the prince agrees. After which the lady with silver hair offers to shoot in turns, and the blonde says that then he will give her a head start because if he shoots first, the girl will lose so quickly. The heroine thinks that the prince is too self-confident and then hits the target, but His Highness the Crown Prince does not lag behind and does the same. The young man with red hair thinks that the atmosphere is somehow strange, and the main character at this time notices that there is only one target left before victory, and she will not give up so easily. But suddenly, a boy runs near the young lady, and the main character is distracted by this. But when the gun fires, the girl sees that it missed the target, after which she tells the prince to shoot. The 5th prince begs his brother at this time, "Miss at least this time," but the prince hits the target and then takes the reward. The main character turns to Alexander and says that her defeat was inevitable, and the guy replies that he thought so too, after which he puts a hairpin on the young lady and says that since she lost, she must wear this hairpin. The main character asks what he is talking about, and the prince says that Marie suits him very well. The lady with silver hair is embarrassed by this and thanks the prince. And when she looks at his level of sympathy, she sees that there is the number 38, and the young lady wonders if this happened again. After which she invites the blonde to go further, and she herself thinks that today, Alexander's sympathy is growing every minute. The guy lifts the hairpin a little and says that it seems very heavy, so let the young lady not move. His Highness thinks that it is worth reducing the weight of the jewelry a little, so that it stays on the hair. And when the blonde adjusts this hairpin on the main character, Elliot snaps his fingers. The main character understands that he is using magic, and when he looks at the 5th prince, he indicates that the young lady should be silent. This makes the main character smile, and thinks that Alexander pretended to fix her hair while Elliot cast magic on her. Therefore, the girl thinks what amazing teamwork this is. The lady with silver hair thanks Mr. Alex for such a sweet gesture, and she is also grateful that the prince invited her on this walk. The blonde then says that they are worth gratitude because he himself insisted on their trip. The red-haired prince says that the show will start very soon, so he asks Lady Marie if she would like to dress up for the event, and for example, visit the first trading house in the Link Empire. The main character says that she already has an outfit, but the prince only says that he thinks Elliot is right. After which the heir to the Prince of the Empire approaches the young lady, and he asks if she would like to visit the trading house with him. The main character, with a smile on her face, says that she will gladly do this. A little time later, these two are already getting out of the carriage, and the young man with red hair says that it's time for him to check how the final rehearsal is going, so they will see each other in the theater. When the Crown Prince and the young lady enter the shopping house and say that they want to look at some costumes, then everyone asks in shock whether the guy is His Highness Alexander, after which one of the workers orders the best new products to be prepared for their guests immediately. The main character thinks that visitors to the trading house clearly did not expect to see the first prince of the empire in the company of a woman. One of the workers says that they are glad that His Highness chose their trading house and then points to the stairs. When they get up, the employee asks if they have a preference in choosing a suit, and His Highness the Crown Prince says that today they will visit the Royal Theatre, so I would like to choose a decent outfit for this event. The worker bows and says that he heard them and will immediately prepare options for them, after which he turns to the main character and says that if she is interested in any dress in the window, then let them know. Alexander then tells Marie to tell her if she likes something, and the prince himself thinks whether he allowed himself too much by giving the young lady a hairpin. The main character at this time thinks that the dresses from the first trading house should be of better quality, but then her gaze is caught by one of them, after which the lady with silver hair calls Mr. Alex and asks Togo to take a look. When the guy comes up, he says that this is the dress the young lady wore to the ball. The main character says that not really, and if you look closely, you can see that the structure of this dress is much lighter and more pleasant to the body, and also the embroidery design is completely different. The main character thinks it's a great job, and the Crown Prince of the Empire asks if Marie is interested in fashion. The lady with silver hair responds to this by saying that she is interested in everything that man creates. With clothes, painting, music, people create truly beautiful things, and such masterpieces unite people's hearts. The Crown Prince then says that he thinks so too, and such things need to be protected. Then the employees of the trading house come up to them from behind and apologize for the wait, after which they show the outfits and say that they have prepared paired outfits for the prince and his companion. The tailcoat and dress are created in red and gold shades. When creating these outfits, the fashion designer was inspired by the flag of the Link Empire, so they ask you to try them on. The main character wonders if they were accidentally mistaken for lovers, but then the girl's gaze catches something else. The Crown Prince at this time thinks that if they go out in this form, then rumors will spread about their relationship, and he would not want to explain himself to Lester for this. So the blonde tries to say that he thinks these outfits don't suit them, but the main character interrupts him on the floor and tells Mr. Alex that these suits were made by a tailor from Darkuri. His Highness asks if these suits came from her country, but he did not know that they import clothes to other kingdoms. Maria says that at the moment this is not the most popular industry, and they have only recently begun to master it. But the young lady thinks it's truly amazing work. One of the workers claims that as soon as they saw the style of the dress and what colors the products were made in, they simply couldn't resist them, and they were sure that many clients would like these outfits, and they were right. The lady with silver hair at this time turns to His Majesty and offers to try it on. The blonde, seeing the smile on Maria's face, says that if she wants, they can try it on. A short time later, they are already leaving the fitting room, and the employees of the trading house say that they look great. The main character and the Crown Prince then look in the mirror, and the workers claim that it suits them very well. The blonde thinks that buying these outfits is not the best idea, and the main character at this time reflects that, as she thought, the dress is very pleasant and light on the body. Therefore, it is worth continuing to develop this direction when she comes home. The prince then asks if the young lady likes this outfit, and the main character replies that it's very good, and this dress seems to prove the friendship between the Empire and Link and the Kingdom of Darkuri. The girl says that she would like to buy this dress and support further imports into the Link Empire. The girl understands that establishing trade relations with other countries is their priority. Alexander then turns to the employee of the trading house and tells them to buy out the entire proposed catalog of costumes from the Kingdom of Darkuri and also purchase 100 types of fabrics from this kingdom for hemming new products. The worker, in shock, asks if they need to buy 100 types, and the main character turns to the prince and asks if he is in front of him. The girl thinks whether the prince wants to support the Kingdom of Darkuri in this way. The guy claims that these outfits are prepared in the best possible way, so he sees no reason not to support the people who tried so hard to make such beautiful outfits. The main character then almost cries with joy and says that this is very generous of him. The girl understands what if people see the first prince of the empire in an outfit made in Darkuri, that interest in the products will increase. His Highness the Crown Prince only claims that he is doing this only because he himself liked this outfit and not for Marie's sake. The main character tells His Highness that she understands, and the guy thinks that if they go out in these outfits, various rumors will spread. Therefore, the Crown Prince says that he will recommend comfortable outfits like theirs to Elliot, Caillou, and Luca. The main character then agrees, and she herself thinks about Lester. An employee of the trading house says that they are glad that the prince liked these outfits, but if he doesn't like the color scheme, then the men's tailcoat has another color. But the prince claims that he is forced to refuse because he likes this one. The employee then agrees and asks if they should pack a new outfit. The main character wants to say yes, but the Crown Prince blocks her and extends his hand. He says no, and there's not much time left before the performance starts. A little time later, the main character, carrying His Highness, has already arrived at the place. The main character thinks that all eyes seem to be directed only at the two of them. At this time, one of the workers welcomes them to the Royal Theatre of the Link Empire and asks them to enjoy their performance today to the fullest, after which he asks if they would like to drink something before the start of the performance. The prince replies that yes, and let them be served 2 glasses of red wine. The main character then looks at Alexander and thinks, didn't he say that there was little time left before the start of the performance? And after that they go on to the balcony, and the main character sees that it is intended for 2. At this time, one of the workers brings them wine, and the lady with silver hair thinks that there is some kind of strange atmosphere there. Therefore, we need to somehow start a conversation. The main character says that this is her first time visiting the theater of their empire. But suddenly the lights in the theater turn off and the main character gets a little scared, and the crown prince asks what it is. The girl replies that the light went out suddenly and nothing was visible. Alexander understands that the young lady is uncomfortable being in the dark, so he extends his hand and tells the girl to close her eyes for a second. The lady with silver hair agrees and then does so. The blonde then looks at her closed eyes, as well as the main character's lips, after which he begins to approach her closer and closer and almost kisses her. Well, the young lady then opens her eyes and asks when she can open them. From now on, during this jam, the moment moves back and says that it is already possible, and the young lady thinks that she kept them closed for a long time. The blonde is very embarrassed and wonders what he is allowing himself to do. The main character at this time looks at him and thinks that they know why Alexander asked her to close her eyes, but he behaves very strangely. At this time, the theater performance begins. One of the actors raises the Holy Grail and says that this treasure sent by God himself will save their lands from all adversity. Everyone in the theater admires and thinks how beautiful it is, and the main character wonders if these petals were created with the help of magic. The crown prince then turns to the young lady and asks if something happened, and the young lady replies that she is just wondering where the rose petals are flying from, and she adds in her thoughts that probably His Highness Elliot tried, but no one attaches importance to whether it is magic or not. The main character says that the petals appeared there as if by magic. But then the girl realizes that this is a royal theater and there is no place for magic, and if people understand, then everything will be bad. The crown prince then says that everything is true, and in the theater it is difficult to distinguish reality from fiction. Therefore, magic is used in the production and no one attaches importance to it. The lady with silver hair thinks that if you think like that, then the actors know that all this was created with the help of magic. And despite this, His Highness has so much fun performing on stage. The prince, looking at the young lady, says that most people in their world cannot use magic, and the fact that people do not understand causes them fear and alienation. So Elliot decided to introduce people to magic through theater, and the main character says that this is a great idea, and then asks him if Mr. Alex came up with it. Legacy and the prince then asks if it was so obvious, and the main character thinks that many people would criticize the actors for using magic on stage, thinking that it could harm the guests. But if the first prince of the empire supports this idea, then no one said a word against it. Alexander then suddenly becomes embarrassed and says that there is nothing wrong with this. At this time, on stage, two of the actors fly into the air. The main character is very surprised by this, and he puts his hand on the hand of His Highness the Crown Prince, asking him to look at the fact that these two are in order in the air. The brunette is a little surprised that the young lady touched his hand. He claims that it must be Elliot's magic again. But then, the lady with silver hair feels that the prince took her hand in his. The main character says that yes, and he is right, because the abilities of His Highness Elliot are simply incredible. And if you think about it, it was thanks to His Highness Elliot that she managed to get into the rose garden. The prince thinks about the garden, and if you remember, Marie said, that Elliot brought her himself to admire the flowers. The blonde thinks that his brother always said that he wanted to use magic to make people happy, and the young man wonders if that's why his brother brought the young lady to him and showed Laurent's rose. The main character, looking at the prince, understands that although he praises his younger brother, by the look of his face, he is clearly angry with Elliot. But when the lady with silver hair looks at the sympathy scale, she sees the number 43. The main character is shocked and thinks that just a little, and they will be on friendly terms. But then the young lady asks him if he was His Highness to let go of her hand. The blonde then looks at the young lady's hand and realizes that the girl was present at the ball as Lester's bride. Well, she doesn't have a wedding ring on her hand yet. Therefore, His Highness the Crown Prince asks the girl to tell honestly whether she is really in love with Lester. The main character is a little puzzled by this question and doesn't know what to answer. The girl understands that there is no point in hiding their secret from the prince. Therefore, she claims that no, she and Lester are not in love with each other, but he is dear to her as a person. The crown prince then takes the young lady's hand again and says that's how it is. The main character is a little surprised and thinks why he doesn't let go of her hand, so the girl asks if something is wrong. Alexander thinks that this is the first time he feels such a strange feeling towards a girl, so he claims to have made a reservation at the restaurant and then asks if the silver-haired lady would like to join him after the theater. The main character looks in shock that the affection counter is already 45 points, and the prince thinks that he can no longer contain these feelings within himself. A short time later, the two are already in the restaurant, and the restaurant workers tell them to come through. Then he shows the table. When they sit down, the blonde man turns to the main character and says that he hopes she doesn't mind having a drink with him. Maria asks why not. And when they are already pouring a glass of drink, the prince asks what they are drinking for, and the girl says, for the peace and prosperity of their empire. After which the young lady thinks what a wonderful day it is, and for the first time in all the time she was interrupting in the empire, she was finally able to relax. The blonde man is a little embarrassed, and then asks if the lady with silver hair wants to go out to the balcony. The main character then replies that, and getting up from her chair, she thinks that she heard that this restaurant offers a wonderful view of the city. After they find themselves on the balcony, the main character admires the views and says how beautiful it is there. His Highness the Crown Prince says that this is his favorite place in the capital, and Link was just a small country built on a wasteland with monsters living here and there. But thanks to the power of the Holy Grail, they managed to change the country. The main character understands that the power of the Grail cannot support their country forever. Therefore, she asks the prince whether for the people of the empire, the Grail is not simply a symbol of peace and prosperity. The blonde replies that this is so, and the Grail instills in people the belief that their country is under the protection of God himself. But first of all, the people themselves care about this land and protect it, and the guy wants them to support the empire together in the future. The guy gets down on his knee and claims that he wants this with all his heart, after which he kisses the hand of the main character. The lady with silver hair is shocked by this, but the blonde just gets up, and then he says that he loves Marie. The young lady, looking at the guy's sympathy level, sees that the number is 48. Therefore, the girl thinks that this is her chance, and if she becomes the beloved of the first prince of the Link Empire, she will finally be able to take revenge on Louis. But the main character says that, unfortunately, she cannot respond to the feelings of His Highness. After all, as he already knows, she is engaged to the Prince of the Kingdom of Rutonia. Initially, Prince Louis asks the girl to come to the Empire and steal one of their treasures. The Crown Prince asks which one, and the main character, remembering the Golden Grail, says that Prince Louis wanted the fall of the Link Empire, and to achieve his goal, he wanted to steal the Holy Grail. And the main character claims that she could not refuse him because their countries had been on friendly terms for many years, and it would have cost them nothing to attack them if she refused. The blonde then asks if the young lady entered into a fake engagement with Lester to support her home country. After this, the main character only nods, and thinks that at the moment the percentage of sympathy is high enough for the guy to believe her, but there is no guarantee that he will take her side. The brunette takes the main character's hair in his hand and says that all this time he knew about Prince Louis's plans. And now I found out what the young lady had to go through, after which the Crown Prince hugs the main character. The lady with silver hair is a little surprised by this and asks what His Highness is doing. But the prince replies that it's hard to even imagine what Marie had to go through. Maria wonders if the prince is trying to console her, and the blonde moves closer to her ear. And he says that he no longer wants the young lady to carry this burden alone. Then he kisses her on the cheek and says that he wants to promise her something. The main character asks what he is talking about, and His Highness the Crown Prince says that he will help the young lady save her homeland. But this will require her determination. Marie then smiles and agrees with His Highness. A little time later, they are already riding in a carriage, and the main character thinks whether she did the right thing and whether her family will survive if she unites with her Alexander and opposes Louis. The blonde man looked out the window, asking if the young lady was now starting to get nervous around him. The main character is a little surprised by this and asks what His Highness is talking about, but the guy just sits down next to her and says that he sees everything in his eyes. The lady with silver hair says it's not like that, and the blonde says that this is not surprising, because after such a romantic declaration of love, she could not be nervous. Maria then asks if His Highness is flirting with her. She herself thinks that, unfortunately, her thoughts are not about him now. The blonde man looks at the lady with silver hair and thinks that he is glad to see her smiling again. The main character thinks that she has absolutely no time for love now, and besides Alexander, she has another ally. After which she turns to Mr. Alex, and the blonde then claims that the young lady must want to talk about Lester. The guy understands that Marie sees him as her ally and trusts him, but this is not surprising. The main character says that yes, and she wants to return to the guest house to His Highness Lester and let the prince look after Isla. The girl understands that in order to change the future, she needs to use all the resources that she has. The prince agrees to her proposal and says that he also wants to be her ally, so if the young lady needs something, she can always safely ask him for help. The guy thinks that Maria is still very careful with him, and it will be difficult to gain her trust, but his feelings have not changed one bit. After this, the main character just smiles and sincerely thanks His Highness, after which the blonde smiles, and they spend the rest of the road in silence. A short time later, the carriage arrives at Alexander's residence. When the main character gets out of the carriage, she basically stretches her hand. Alistair says that they are somehow late, after which he takes the hand of the young lady and from the hand of the crown prince, and asks what His Highness is doing there. A young man with silver hair looks at these paired outfits, and then he approaches Marie and claims that he came to pick her up and then smiles. The main character is a little surprised by this and does not know how to respond to this. The young man with silver hair then apologizes and says that he should have invited her to the theater himself. But he even envies Alex a little, after which the second prince suggests going inside because he has prepared a surprise there. When the main character turns to His Highness the Crown Prince, he shows with his chicken that Lester should not know about their conversation, much less about his feelings. After which he smiles from the summer prince, and the main character leaves with a young man with silver hair. When they enter the building, the main character is met by her nanny. The girl, looking at Ayla, asks if she is feeling better already. The nanny then, with a smile on her face, says that everything is thanks to my lady's care and support, and she also found out that the girl ruined this time for her sake, so she thanks my lady Marie. The main character, looking at this rose, thinks whether Lester kept that same rose. Nanny now says that His Highness gave her this gift, and he also prepared something special for the young lady, after which they enter one of the rooms. And the main character sees that there are a lot of flowers there. The silver-haired glacier then addresses His Highness, and Lester replies that it's just a gift, and he realized that the young lady prefers elegant flowers like Laurent's rose. The nanny says that now her room looks like a flower garden, and she even feels somehow awkward. Maria smiles at this, and then thanks His Highness for his concern, and it was truly a pleasant surprise. And then the main character sees that the guy's affection percentage is already 33%. The girl understands that sympathy has increased again, and says that His Highness has changed a lot. The girl remembers how in the past, the second prince was the one who played with the feelings of others. And now His Highness says that Marie gave him strength and hope that everything in this world can be changed. Well, in addition to the desired freedom from the shackles of Carla, he understood what he wanted. The silver-haired lady then asks what he wants, and Lester thinks that he wants to be more than a fake groom for her. But the guy decides not to say this, and he simply approaches the young lady and tells her to better answer why she and his older brother are wearing matching outfits. The main character claims that His Highness misunderstood everything, and they went into a trading house, after which they saw outfits made in Darkuri, and then decided to try them on. They liked them so much, that's why they decided to buy them. Well, looking at Lester's reaction, the main character thinks that he really didn't believe her again, and what should she do? So the girl asks if he's angry. His Highness the Second Prince says that usually if lovers are angry, then it is customary to calm him down. The silver-haired leadership is a little surprised by this phrase, and His Highness just leans towards her and tells her to hurry up. The main character thinks that she has no choice anyway, after which she whispers words of apology into the guy's ear and says that this will not happen again. After that, looking at the affection meter, the young man with silver hair sees that it is 38%. Lester then invites the young lady to go shopping together because he has been thinking about updating his wardrobe for a long time. The main character then says that she of course is not against it, but she herself sees that the young man's sympathy has grown so that he is not angry. The second prince at this time thinks that he should buy the young lady's engagement ring so that there will be no questions about their relationship. And the main character, when she looks at the percentage of affection, sees that it has increased again. Lester just leans over to the young lady and says that he's taking a break for today, but tomorrow they'll spend the day just the two of them. The lady behind the silver hair then turns to her watch and wonders what time it is. The girl sees that it is already late and asks if His Highness is leaving already. Lester says that this is his brother's residence, so even though he wants to stay, he has no desire to anger him. The main character then says goodbye to His Highness, and she herself thinks that it's not the first time they've spent time alone. But for some reason, approaching trains feel especially exciting. The young man with silver hair wishes Marie goodnight and then leaves. At this time, Alexander is in his bath. He remembers how he confessed his feelings to Marie and wonders if he has any chances. The guy then tisks and wonders what he was even thinking about when he said that. The Link Empire and the Rutonia Kingdom had always been in a strained relationship, and if he tried to protect Marie, it would inevitably lead to military conflict. Well, His Highness the Crown Prince understands that he wants to save the girl, and for this he is ready to sacrifice a lot. The next morning, the main character opens the window, and there a dove flies to her. The girl understands that yesterday she already sent a letter to Louis, where she wrote that everything was going according to their plans, and she arranged a fake engagement with the second prince of the empire in order to get closer to the Holy Grail. And the prince of the Rutonia kingdom replied that it hurt him to hear that the young lady had to pretend to be someone's bride, and it broke his heart. The main character then crumples this piece of paper and thinks that she no longer believes in this, after which she reads the next line, which says that in fact, in the near future, the guy was thinking of sending her an assistant and then arriving himself in the Link Empire to meet with her personally in order to discuss the future plan. The main character is wondering what he is talking about, and has he really begun to suspect her? The girl understands that she cannot allow prying eyes, much less his arrival there. Therefore, in the sheet, the girl writes that the situation is not so critical for now to send help to her, and a new employee in the royal palace may seem overly suspicious. The main character understands. Why should she also write to him about her love for him to show that she is still on his side? After which the young lady finishes writing the letter and sends the dove. The girl understands that she still couldn't write about her feelings, and the line that she's worried about Louis is the only thing she could squeeze out of herself. And she also wrote at the end of the letter that she did not want to expose Louis to such a risk. Silverhair Lollipop thinks that she should discuss this situation with Alex, after which the main character rings the bell and the maid enters the room, asking if the mistress called her. The lady with silver hair then turns to her and asks if the maid could prepare her to go out. Then the lady with silver hair looks at her maid's sympathy and sees the number 23 there. The main character understands that she now uses her gift without a second thought, without attaching any importance to it, but in childhood she considered it a real curse. Despite her status, she was bullied because of her cursed eye. When the main character looked at the affection of her classmates, she saw only negative numbers there. But when Louis entered the class, he argued that a person is beautiful the way he is, and even if a young lady has a power that they do not understand, this is not a reason to make fun of her. After which he turned to Maria and said that if she was bullied again, then let her speak about it. The main character saw that his sympathy was 75%, and the girl fell for these numbers, thinking that the guy really loved her. But there won't be a second time. When the young lady leaves her room, she meets Elliot and wishes him good morning. The young man with red hair then asks if the girl wants to visit her brother. The main character says yes, and if he's not busy, of course. A short time later, they are already near the room of His Highness the Crown Prince. The prince with red hair knocks on his room, and Alexander asks who is there. Then the fifth prince says that it is he and enters the room and wishes his brother good morning, after which he says that he brought cold water with lemon as he asked. The blonde man, when he thanks his brother, and the main character then becomes a little embarrassed and apologizes for the intrusion. The crown prince says that she doesn't need to apologize, and then asks if the girl wanted to talk to him about something. The main character then asks if His Highness has noticed anything strange happening in the royal palace, such as new servants or rumors. The blonde replies that no, and he hasn't heard anything like that. The lady with silver hair thinks that the capital has very strict security controls, and even if Alex didn't hear anything, then the spy had not yet penetrated the empire. The legacy of Prince Vatatime thinks that the young lady is clearly bothered by something. Therefore, he approaches Marie and claims that he said that if a girl is bothered by something, she can share it with him, and he will try to help her in any way he can. The main character at this time looks at the prince's sympathy level and sees 48% there, but the girl understands that the point is not even in these numbers, and the prince always helped me in difficult moments. So the silver-haired lady takes Alexander's hand and places it on her cheek. The crown prince is a little embarrassed by this, and Maria says that soon a spy from Rutonia will penetrate into the capital, so it is worth strengthening the security. His Highness the Crown Prince says he understands and then turns to Elliot. The young man with red hair bows and says that he heard him and then leaves. The blonde asks the main character what her plans are for today, and the girl replies that she will be busy all day. And in her thoughts, she adds that she promised someone that they would spend this day, just the two of them. The blonde then turns to Marie and asks if she will accompany him in the company of Lester. The main character thinks it was obvious, and the blonde, not hearing an answer to his question, says that he is even envious. The lady with silver hair is embarrassed by such words, and the prince then smiles and says that he is joking, after which he advises them to take a walk through the royal quarter. After all, during the festival, it looks especially beautiful. In response to the main character, but she smiles. and he thanks Mr. Alex for the advice at this time in the kingdom of Rutonia. The prince sits on the bed with the woman and says that it seems that everything is going according to plan. The girl lying next to him asks what they write to him there. The brunette sees that it is written there that his subordinates have almost reached the capital of the empire and everything is going according to his orders. Louis tells the girl that it's not that important, but she tells the brunette not to be so mean and to tell her. Louis then says that Link contains a treasure that he wants to take for himself. The girl says with a smile on her face that it's pretty mean, and the prince thinks that this dumbass can't even read. The girl then asks when Louis will steal it and if she can look at it. The prince then throws away the letter and claims that, of course, but he realizes that he didn't even remember the girl's name. At this time, she asks if Louis will marry her. The brunette is silent for a while, and then with a smile on his face says yes, but he himself thinks how boring this girl is. But he needs a woman who will be much smarter and more useful than this, like his beautiful Marie. At this time, Lester is in one of the jewelry stores. The store worker asks if he wants to have it engraved, and the second prince replies that yes, and let them engrave Lester on one ring and Marie on the other. The worker says that they will do as His Highness wishes, and as soon as they are finished, they will send them to the address indicated to him. The second prince, looking at the silver ring, smiles and thanks the worker. A short time later, he is already heading to the main character, and she claims that His Highness looks great. The guy in the white suit just thanks her for such a warm compliment. He takes the main character's hand in his, and then invites her to hit the road. Maria thinks that after all, that letter haunts her, and Lester, seeing that the young lady was thinking a little, wondering if something is bothering her. The second prince claims that her dress was not delivered to Alex's residence in time, and that is such a pity. The main character asks what he is talking about, and His Highness the second prince says that today he wanted to walk through the streets of the capital in paired outfits like he and Alex did. The ladies with silver hair only smile in response to this and ask if His Highness still remembers that incident. The guy then asks how it could be otherwise, since during the celebration his beloved brother walked around in matching outfits, and this hurt his heart. Maria then says that they are not in love with each other. Lester then puts his hand on the young ladies and says that she is right. However, one word from her, and they will become a real couple. The main character then pinches his hand and tells the prince to stop joking like that and asks if he just wants to tease her. The young man with silver hair says how rude it is and claims that he didn't even try, but he himself thinks that it seems that the young lady managed to relax a little, after which he turns to their main character and says that she was so thoughtful at the beginning of the trip, and then asks if something happened. The main character is silent for a bit and thinks about whether she should tell her about Louis's message, but the girl thinks that the new spy has not yet penetrated the Empire, and maybe this won't even happen. After which she says that there is something she would like to tell her about, but now it is not so important, and the prince wanted to spend time with her and also have fun, so the main character suggests leaving this conversation for later. The second prince agrees to this and says that since his beloved wants it, they will do so. The main character then claims that she is not his lover, but is only playing her role. The guy thinks that her excitement will subside after tonight, after which he puts his hand on hers and tells his fake lover Marie that he has a request for her. The main character asks which one, and the young man with silver hair claims that he wants to take her to the clock tower that stands in the center because the view from it is simply magical. The main character asks if he is talking about the clock tower, and if the prince wants it that way, then so be it. His Highness thinks that there he will give the young lady a ring and finally confess his feelings, and the main character notices that his hand is shaking, telling His Highness that he is nervous. The young man with silver hair says that everything is not so at all, but he himself thinks that he can do just a little, after which he turns to Maria and says that he still wants to ask her to call him by name from this day forward. The main character then, with a smile, calls His Highness Mr. Lester. A little time later, they are already in place, and Lester extends his hand to the young lady, helping her get out of the carriage. A very suspicious man in a robe is watching all this. He uses his power of magic. Lester looks up and is a little alarmed because the roof of the house is starting to fly from there, after which the young man with silver hair pushes the main character away. And at the same moment, a pile of stones falls on him. Everyone is shocked by this, and the main character screams for a doctor to be brought urgently. The knights immediately run up to the scene, and people nearby whisper that it was the second prince. The suspicious person who used magic then clenches his teeth and turns around, after which he leaves. A couple of hours later, the main character is already at Alex's residence. The young man with red hair says that the situation is worse than ever, and if his brother survives, most likely he will not be able to walk for the rest of his life. The lady with silver hair is shocked by this news. The girl's hands begin to shake, and the main character says that the tiles from the roof could not have fallen on them, and she could have hit the carriage and fell exactly on them. Therefore, Maria says that there is no doubt that the roof did not collapse on itself and they were attacked by a magician. The fifth prince is surprised by this and asks if it is a magician. Then he clenches his fists and thinks that this bastard used magic to harm innocent people. Elliot says that in their empire, there are not many wizards who could create something like this in the first place. The magician's target was not Lester, but the young lady. At this time, the maid knocks on their room. When the main character opens the door, she asks what she wants so much. The girl asks for forgiveness, but claims that an order has arrived for His Highness Lester. Initially, he was supposed to be taken to the clock tower, but since His Highness was injured, he was sent there. The main character looks into the box and sees that there are 2 rings with the names Lester and Marie engraved there. The lady with silver hair thanks the maid for bringing it, and she herself thinks that this is why the prince wanted to go to this clock tower. But when the main character looks at his sympathy meter, the girl realizes that she hardly sees the percentage and Lester is fighting for his life. Maria apologizes for opening his order without asking permission, but the guy must wake up in order to hand over this ring, after which she places her hand on His Highness's head and thinks that he was involved in her terrible story and ultimately suffered at the hands of those whom she swore revenge on. After which the young lady pulls away and asks if the Holy Grail can save Mr. Lester's legs and life. The girl understands that on that day, she swore that no one else would die because of her. The young man with red hair is silent for a while, and then replies that yes, the Holy Grail can save Lester's life. However, it is carefully hidden, and all 5 princes are obliged to regularly take care of the safety of the Grail, as well as change the place of its storage. During the festival, Leicester was obliged to hide the Grail. The girl realizes that she knows that just like in the previous timeline. After all, that's why Leicester became her target in the past. The young lady knows for sure that this time the Grail is hidden in the clock tower. The 5th prince then states that unfortunately, even if we have a way to cure Lester, without his intervention, they will not be able to find the Grail. The main character understands that she knows exactly where you are. In the clock tower, it is hidden and behind her memories. However, the girl understands that if she finds him without Lester's help, she may again be considered a spy. The young man with red hair says that all they can do is wait, and Maria then realizes that she cannot allow Lester to fall into eternal sleep. Therefore, the lady with silver hair turns to His Highness and says that she knows where the Holy Grail is hidden. The 5th prince is shocked by this, and the young lady asks him to go to the high tower with her. The girl in her thoughts asks him not to ask how she knows this. And the young man with red hair then uses magic and asks where the Holy Grail is. Then he tells the girl to say it now and extends her hand. Maria firmly answers that he is on the roof of the clock tower. At the same moment, they teleport to this place, and the main character says that in order to get the Grail, you need to act according to exact instructions. The girl understands that if they make even one mistake, they will have to start over. Therefore, she claims that first the stone statue has a globe in its right hand, which must be rotated 3 times clockwise. The young man with red hair does so, and then a ladder begins to appear in the air. When Mary steps on it, the young man thinks how the girl found out the location of the Grail. But when they are already going upstairs, the young lady pulls the rope. And after that, another entrance opens. A young man with red hair asks if this is a secret door and is about to go there, but the lady with silver hair stops him and says it's a trap, after which Maria lifts one of the tiles and takes out a key from under it. The main character understands that she needs to get the key from the floorboard and go to the bookcase. There you need to click on the 8th book on the right side on the bottom row, the 2nd on the left in the middle row, and the 5th on the right on the top row. Elliot, look at the girl, thinks that she follows the instructions with amazing accuracy and thinks Lester told her about everything, but the guy doesn't understand why. At this time, the shelves move apart and a box is visible there, after which the main character takes it out and takes the Grail. Looking at the relic, the girl thinks that everything is the same as last time. The young man with red hair at this time suggests returning to Lester, and the main character extends her hand to him and agrees. A short time later, they find themselves at Alexander's residence. Elliot tells the young lady to give him the Grail, after which the guy fills the Grail with water. And a little later, the young lady is already trying to get Lester drunk. The lady with silver hair understands that if he does not take a single sip, the power of the Grail will not work. No. After which she grabs a towel and waves it with water, trying to at least give the young man something to drink. But the girl is shocked because she sees that the scale of affection is becoming more and more cloudy, after which the main character, with tears in her eyes, pours all the remaining water from the Grail onto the prince's face and wonders if she really won't be able to save him. After all, the girl promised that she would help him find freedom, and Lester should not have left her. But suddenly, Elliot and the lady with silver hair notice that the guy is starting to wake up. The main character screams out Lester's name and is glad that he woke up after all. The second prince only asks where he is. Not understanding what has already happened, the young man with red hair supports him. Maria then jumps to Lester and says that thank God he is safe. The girl apologizes and says that it's all because of her. A young man with silver hair asks what she is talking about. The main character replies that most likely her fiancé sent a mercenary to get rid of her, but His Highness saved her life. The young man with red hair thinks that what Lady Darkuri knew about the location of the Grail leads him to different thoughts. However, the young lady wanted to save Lester first and foremost, so this time he would not interrogate her. The young man with silver hair says that Marie is not to blame for anything, and the main character says that the prince almost died because of her. And Lester then says that she almost drank poison from the glass of his crazy fiancé, and they knew what they were getting into when they entered into an alliance. The main character says a little sadly that she knows, and in her thoughts, she adds that when she was faced with the harsh reality, she could not imagine how terrible it would be to lose a person through her own fault. Lester stares in silence for a while, and then asks if he's alive. Doesn't he deserve a hug? He is talking about, but she herself thinks that it's Elliot. Lester just tells Marie that he is fine, and then tells the lady with silver hair to look at him. The main character thinks a little, and thinks whether she should do this. But then she still decides to hug the second prince. The young man with silver hair claims that he always thought only of himself. But he saw how the young lady was ready to risk everything for him, and wanted to answer her in kind. Therefore, the guy now hugs the main character, and says that he is glad that he was able to protect her. Lester strokes the young lady's hair, and she thinks that at least the criminal has not yet been found, and she cannot relax. But Maria thinks that she is so happy that everything ended well. Elliot standing to the side. He says that he clearly doesn't belong there. The crown prince is outside at this time. The guy thinks that it is crowded, after which he orders his charges to continue the search and he will visit Lester. Servants obey their master. The blonde then jumps on his horse and heads to his residence. Alexander understands that his brother is seriously injured and hopes that he is alive. After that, he immediately runs to the door and opens it. Breathing heavily, the crown prince asks if Lester has woken up. But the guy is shocked when he sees his brother with a lady with silver hair. The blonde, looking at the two of them, thinks what is happening there, and seeing the Holy Grail in Elliot's hands, he is even more surprised. His Highness the Crown Prince becomes wary and asks what the Holy Grail is doing there. This relic is the main treasure of the Empire, and it ended up there out of nowhere. The main character thinks that she needs to come up with something and needs at least some kind of justification. A young man with silver hair looks at the Holy Grail, and now they understand why he survived. Well, the young man understands that only he knew where this relic was, so he thinks how they found it. The Crown Prince at this time asks if they have anything to answer. The main character doesn't even know what to say. And the young man with red hair raises his hand and tells his brother that he brought him there to save Lester. His Highness the Crown Prince then asks how his brother knew where the Holy Grail was hidden this year, and the magician answers that, in truth, he had been watching Leicester since the beginning of the festival and knew where he hid it. Alexander then looks at his brother incredulously, and then sighs, after which he asks if he knows how to get him back. Elliot replies that yes, and the lady with silver hair thinks that His Highness the Fifth Prince saved her. At this time, the blonde states that he will talk to the two of them when he returns and teleports away with the Fifth Prince. The main character says that's good, and His Highness the Crown Prince and his brother are in the chapel at this time. A young man with red hair asks if he should return the Grail to its original place, and his brother then picks up the box and says that no, and they will change the place where the Grail is hidden. But before answering, he tells Elio to confess to him, and then asks what he is hiding. The Fifth Prince is a little shocked by this, thinking that Alexander perfectly recognized his lie. His Highness the Crown Prince says that his brother must understand how each of the princes tries year after year to come up with new ways to hide the Grail, and in his thoughts, they add that Elliot would not lie to him without a reason. The guy thinks that, knowing Lester, he hid the Holy Grail well, and he always approaches this matter with caution. However, if he told the location of the Grail to Marie, then everything would fit. But the blonde says that he doesn't understand why a girl should know where the Holy Grail is hidden. Then one of the books falls out at his brother, and His Highness the Crown Prince sees that the magician cannot cope with it. Then he asks if Marie has found the Holy Grail. The magician doesn't even know what to answer to this, and the blonde then claims that he can consider his silence as an answer. Elliot then screams and tells His Highness that even if so, this is not what he thinks. Alexander cries out that the young lady's knowledge is suspicious. When the two teleported, the magic circle gradually began to disappear. Lester turns to Marie and asks if she could give him some clean clothes. The main character then turns around and says that she will help him, and the young man with silver hair says that there is no need and he can handle it himself. But if she insists, then he doesn't mind the audience. The main character does not understand what the prince is talking about, and when she sees that he is starting to remove the bandages and how the blanket is almost sliding off his hips, then the lady with silver hair gets embarrassed and screams that she's already leaving, after which she does so. Lester, seeing this, just smiles, and then his gaze is caught by the same box standing on the nightstand. A young man with silver hair comes up to her and says that since he survived, he will have to do this. The main character stands outside the door, wondering whether Alexander will interrogate her about the Holy Grail. But the girl understands that now she is worried about finding the culprit, and she will no longer allow her loved ones to suffer because of her. At this time, the main character hears someone approaching from behind the doors. It turns out to be a young man with silver hair who has already changed clothes. He opens the doors and turns to Marie. The main character asks if he has changed his clothes yet, and the second prince says yes, and then asks Marie to extend her hand. When the main character does this, Lester puts the ring on her finger, and the lady with silver hair remembers how she told the prince while he was unconscious and apologized for opening the order without his permission. She claimed that the guy must wake up in order to give her the ring. The young man with silver hair says that she is still his bride, so the ring is rightfully hers. The main character smiles at this, and the second prince says that in truth, he wanted to present it in a more romantic place. But Reed, plunging into eternal sleep, he realized how short their life was, and since he was alive, he decided that there was no point in hiding it anymore. After which, Lester tells Marie that he loves her and kisses the girl's hand. Then he claims that he wants their love to be real. The silver-haired lady looks at his sympathy meter and sees the number 51 there. The main character thinks that he even knows about her engagement to Louis and still decided to take such a step. Maria asks Mr. Lester if he has decided to ring her for real. A young man with silver hair wonders who this mysterious woman is and claims that this ring is a talisman against his older brother. The guy claims that he does not intend to give up Marie's heart to him. The silver-haired lady then remembers what happened between her and His Highness the Crown Prince. And the young man with silver hair then asks if Alex has already managed to do something. The main character says that of course not, and Lester then says that Marie is only his beloved. He takes the young lady's hand in his, and the main character is very embarrassed by this and tells His Highness to stop making fun of her. Lester then smiles and says that's good, and then claims that they still have something that they should discuss right now. A little time later, they find themselves near the table with a map and discussing something important. A young man with silver hair, looking at the main character, thinks that he is finally spending time alone with her. At this time, His Highness the Crown Prince is in the chapel with his brother. The blonde says that only from Lester could the young lady find out the location of the Grail, and that means all this time she most likely really was a spy. He then tells Elliot to turn away and claims that he will hide the Holy Grail. The young man with red hair obeys his brother and then disappears, and the blonde then hides him. His Highness the Crown Prince thinks they need to find the culprit, after which he hides the box behind a painting of a mechanism and turns to Elliot, and orders him to teleport them to the area where Lester was attacked. Then he extends his hand, and the two of them teleport away. 3 hours later, they are finishing their search, and His Highness the Crown Prince asks his brother if he has found anything. The fifth prince says that their criminal did not leave any traces, so there is a possibility that he escaped using teleportation. The blonde thinks that finding the criminal magician will not be easy, but suddenly someone comes up to him from behind and addresses His Highness. It turns out to be a couple of aristocrats. The woman claims that she heard that His Highness Leicester is in terrible condition and asks if he will recover. And the man asks His Highness whether it was just a sudden incident or an attack on the second prince. The blonde then says that they have nothing to worry about as long as he stands guard over their kingdom because not a single invader will get there. The aristocrat is a little puzzled by this answer, and the woman says that it is time for them to go. At this time, a knight runs up to His Highness the Crown Prince and cries out to His Highness that the king is waiting. Alexander then says that it's good, and then he will go, and he orders his wards to continue the investigation. A short time later, the young man is already near his father, and he asks how he dared to allow an assassination attempt on the royal person. The emperor claims that he even allowed him to take this sorcerer into his family. Alexander then asks his father to listen to him and says that this incident happened purely because he let his guard down, and Elliot had nothing to do with it. The emperor then throws a glass of wine at his son and says, "What if he does not find the culprit? Then he will put all the blame on this boy." The blonde then cries out whether his father will put all the blame on Elliot, but he is not to blame for anything. The emperor then cries out, asking if his son dares to contradict him, and he claims that this youth is the very offspring of the wicked. The emperor understands that he must give him conditions that are incommensurate with us. Then he says that if his son does not find the culprit within 3 days, he will send this young man too. The blonde is a little wary of this and thinks that his father treats Elliot like he is some kind of weapon, after which Alexander rises from his seat and turns around, saying that he will find the culprit within 3 days. Then the main character wishes his father well and leaves this room. That same evening, His Highness the Crown Prince addresses Elliot, who asks for his forgiveness and claims that no new information has been discovered. The blonde then turns around and looks at his brother, who asks if something was shaking. Alexander answers no, and he himself thinks that he needs to save Elliot's life and find the culprit for the ceremony to be successful. And these are not easy tasks that must be completed in a short time frame, but he is not fighting alone. When Alexander knocks on one of the rooms, the main character opens it for him. The girl, when she sees Alex, thinks that he is rather despondent, after which the lady with silver hair and with a smile on her face asks Mr. Alex what happened to him, and then he tells them to come in. His Highness the Crown Prince is a little surprised by this and walks into the room, and he himself is a little embarrassed. Lester is already in the room and asks if they found the criminal. The blonde says that, unfortunately, no, and it's as if he's cleaned up all traces of himself. The silver-haired lady asks what His Highness the Crown Prince is talking about, and Lester then asks if he could escape from the Empire. The main character, after thinking a little, says that no, and he is still there. And His Highness the Crown Prince asks why the young lady is so sure of this. The lady with silver hair then says that it is because Lester was immediately sent to his royal palace for treatment, and the criminal does not know whether the second prince is alive or not, and the blonde then asks, will the attacker leave the Empire until he is convinced of this? And the lady with silver hair says that this is true. After which he asks His Highness Elliot if he can become invisible. The young man with red hair is a little surprised by such a request, but says that of course he can, after which he becomes invisible. The main character says that's great, and then tells him not to move. The young lady wonders if she can see his sympathy without even seeing the prince himself. And when a girl uses her ability, she sees a sympathy scale in the air. Maria realizes that she sees the percentage, but does not see the person, after which she comes a little closer to these percentages and thinks that if they are there, then the guy's face must be somewhere below. A young man with red hair thinks about what all this is for, and at this time, the main character begins to touch him. The girl understands that although she is not visiting the prince, she feels him to the touch. She feels the fifth prince's face as well as his chest. The other two princes wonder what's going on. And Elliot then removes the young lady's hand and embarrassedly asks her to stop. But when he looks at the face of the lady with silver hair, he sees that she is all red. The main character embarrassedly asks for forgiveness, and the young man with red hair is also embarrassed and says that he is not angry with her. Alexander looks at his brother a little coldly, and the main character sees that Elliot's sympathy percentage is now 39%. At this time, His Highness the Crown Prince approaches the young lady and asks why she asked Elliot to use magic. The lady with silver hair says that she can see people even when using invisibility magic. All three princes are surprised by this. The main character thinks that the percentage of sympathy can be omitted. His Highness the Crown Prince then asks if the girl could have seen Elliot all this time, and the lady with silver hair claims that it was necessary to make sure that with her power, they could find the criminal. The young man with red hair then asks how the young lady is going to look for the criminal, since their capital is huge, and it is impossible to get around it even in a week. The silver-haired lady only claims that the criminal will come to them himself, but His Highness the Crown Prince asks what the young lady is talking about. And the main character then says that it is important for the criminal to find out the truth, whether Lester is alive or not.